So you can see the lovely split bicep there. It's in the contract. Definitely not something that I made up to show off my biceps that I've been working on for 23 years in the gym. It's definitely nothing like that whatsoever. Hello to everyone that is here. We've got a few people already in the chat. People giving me crap for starting 1 minute late. Erican, thanks a lot. You're late. I said 11:45. It's only 11:46. Come on, mate. Friggin' Aussies, just because they're from the future, they think they can neglect time. Phil Woody is here as well. Hey, buddy. Hey, hello to you, Phil. So, yeah, it's great to have everyone here, and hopefully we'll get some more people in the chat as we go. But, yeah, today we wanted to talk about the upcoming... There's two upcoming cards that I'm very interested in, and one is the Arm Gods Wales event, and the other is East versus West 13. They're both on the same day, unfortunately, which is always a frustration where you get your events booked competitively in terms of time. There probably should be enough difference with the UK time and... I'm not sure where East versus West 13 is being held, but you would hope that they won't be running at exactly the same time, that there would be a separate amount that you could start watching both. But yeah, it should be very fun. I'm always excited for anything Arm Gods. These guys put on a fantastic show, and Paul Maiden and Marcus Thompson have done a tremendous job with Arm Gods. And yeah, this card that they've thrown together for Wales, we've got some familiar names on there. There are some names I'm not sure on, and I'm not familiar with everybody that's on the card. But the fun thing about that is that I know Paul Maiden and Marcus Thompson would have put these matches together knowing that these would be fantastic matches. And the good thing is I get to learn about these pullers that I might not currently know, or I might not have seen before. And so I'll bring up the card here for you. I've got it here on the 7. Erican says, Engen seems to like scheduling his events on top of others. Yes, well, it can be frustrating, but it is difficult to try to find a date. We've actually found this problem. We're dealing with this at the moment with AWE, and we've got an event booked. We've locked the date in finally, but it took quite a while because you've got, let's say you've got 10 matches on your card. That's 20 guys that you're trying to get all scheduled and all free and available to pull on your event. And it's like, okay, this is the date we're looking at. And they're like, oh, I can't do that because I'll be in Thailand on a wedding or something. It's like, yeah. And it's like, oh, I can't do that. That's 2 weeks after my other event. And it's like, yeah. And so, yeah, you're trying to find the major events that maybe some of the guys that you want will be on, and then like, okay, let's give them 4 weeks from there and pick that date. And it's like, oh, someone's already got that date. Damn it. So, yeah, it can be quite difficult to find the right spots to be able to put an event on. Yeah, unfortunately, they have double booked themselves for this one, for Arm Gods and for East versus West. But like I said, there should be enough time difference because obviously Arm Gods is in Wales. It's up the Arm Gods Wales event. And then if it's in Dubai or if it's in Turkey, you would think that there would be a significant time difference between the two events, that you can more than likely watch both comfortably without having to choose between the two. Never a good thing when you've got to choose, because it does hurt both shows. If you've got, let's say, 100,000 arm wrestling fans that want to watch something, and then you've got two events to choose from, yeah, you're going to be splitting your audience regardless. You know, you can put on the best show, but then you're still going to lose a percentage to the other show that's also running. So yeah, it is not ideal. You really don't want to have that happen, but unfortunately that is the case here. But bring up the card here for Arm Gods Wales. Now, as I said before, there's most of the guys here. I'm not familiar with everybody on the card. There are a few that I know. But as I said before, the fun thing is I get to watch and learn about these guys and see them in action. So we've got David Bradford and Elliot Eccles. It's a right arm match there. And we've also got Andrew Jones and Mantis Drew Neckers. That's for the 115 kilo right arm belt. So that should be a good match. Looks like it'll be two very big guys going up against each other for the belt there. Sylvester Stallone. I love that. I think that's a fantastic name. I said this last time, but that's very clever. Uh, Sylvester's Stallone. That's very good. Hello to you. And you've got the icon there too. You've got the Sly icon. Fantastic. The match I'm really looking forward to on this card is Dean Bolt versus James Stewart. Dean Bolt is a fantastic arm wrestler. Who this is actually a left hand match as well. I did the commentary with Dean at the Arm Gods event for Valhalla. Lovely guy, very funny, very powerful man. You can see just by sitting next to him that his arms, his shoulders, his back, everything was worked to the max. He'll be taking on an absolute giant in James Stewart. James Stewart is a monster of a man. I think he's about 165 kilos, which is, God, I always forget to do the pound conversion. What is that? 165 times 2.2, 363 pounds. So he's no slouch. James Stewart, huge man. And that match will be incredibly interesting to see what happens with that. Yes, Dean having experience, he's a very, very adept arm wrestler. And James, it feels to me like James is still sort of finding his groove. He's got all the size and all the power to be at the elite level. And it's just going to be learning all those foundational movements as to where he is strongest. And it's more about experience, I think, for James here, as opposed to getting stronger or getting better. I think it's just more about have more matches and learn more about what you can do in a match to find victory. He went up against Matarengi Hedemorris over in Arm Gods Valhalla, and he did very well. And he managed to get the first round off Matarengi. They were both sort of stuck in almost a king's move, kings versus kings in a way. And he managed to prevent Matarengi from being able to turn his wrist over, and to the point where Matarengi was like, I'm either going to gas myself out here in this first round, or I'm going to give this up. So he ended up laying it down. But yeah, so James walked away with the first pin there. But unfortunately, Matarengi was able to make the adjustments throughout the rest of the match and was able to walk away with a victory over James. And that's sort of what I'm talking about, the difference in experience and ability to change what you're doing. And the advice that Ryan Bowen gave Matarengi between rounds, is what made the difference in terms of he recognized where James was standing, how he was positioned, and how Matarengi could exploit that. And I believe he said to go more inside with a more of a pressing motion. But yeah, it's just those little things that James will pick up over time. But he has all the tools there, 165 kilos. And yeah, I think he's only a couple of years in. So be very interested to see how his career plays out. I've got a question here from Erican. Side question: did you see Mega Mike and Leonidas have a practice pool? I haven't seen that. Where is that? Is it on Mega Mike's channel or Leonidas's channel? That would be quite interesting. How did it go, Erican? Because Leonidas surprised a lot of people with his win over Schoolboy. He looked strong. We knew he was going to be coming in strong. The guy is like an absolute walking muscle. But to be able to hang with someone who's a WAF world champion, who's 6'5", who's very experienced, who's explosive, and not only hang with him, but get dominant positions and get the victory over Schoolboy. It's very, very impressive from Leonidas there. And well, yeah, he shocked the world, I think, with that win over Schoolboy. Schoolboy bouncing back with a win over Ryan Bowen and putting his name back in the winner's circle. But it is a very interesting turn of events to see Leonidas stepping into the arm wrestling world against somebody who's at that top level and actually winning. The bodybuilder bullies channel. I don't know if I've heard of that. Leonidas had a lot more endurance than Mike. Okay, yeah, yeah. Well, that's one of those things with the sport, isn't it? That everyone has a different and particular skill set going in as to what. Let me just bring this back up here. Yeah, so you never really know what somebody's going to gravitate towards with arm wrestling, and that's what makes it fun. Is that everyone will have a unique skill set or style that they won't know what it is until they've been on the table for quite a while. Uh, and then, once you've learned your foundational movements, your top roll, press, and hook, then it's sort of like which one is working best for you, because it may be that you might have the ideal frame for a top rolling, and then you get on, but you just can't. It just doesn't feel strong, like it doesn't work for you. But going inside just feels really natural. And even if the person you're pulling against says, yeah, it doesn't feel as strong as the top roll, but if it feels right for you, then keep doing it and start building your game around that. And maybe some people have the endurance skill, and Leonidas obviously having spent years and years in the gym and building up that muscular endurance, that's obviously carried over to the table for him. And yeah, other people who are just, maybe they're coming from a pure arm wrestling background where it's all about speed and it's all about explosivity, and that may be their skill set is based around that. And then when you look at a practice pool or something where it may be over an hour and somebody is of that explosive style, by the time they're sort of half an hour, 40 minutes in, that explosivity is kind of not being worked, because you're not doing like go starts. You're sort of just working back and forth. And so it may appear that you're getting dominated, or you're not as, I don't know, powerful or as good as what your opponent is. But you've got to remember the context in which matches are taking place, or the footage is taking place. If it's training footage, then it's training. It's both guys are allowing things to happen or moving in different areas to help each other to get better. But it is, I think it must be hard for people that are super explosive to be able to do long training sessions, because if that's your skill, like that's your number one thing, is that you just flash people and you're just like a lightning quick presser. And it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to train, like I should be training my number one skill, and that's that flash pin. Very hard to be able to train that effectively with other people without like them just getting blasted through. You'd probably be setting up and allowing them to get position and just sort of pin you over and over. But yeah, it's one of those things that training is not always the same way as how a match may play out. And it seems to be the way. Like if you go into your training sessions and you're feeling, hey, I feel like I'm dominating this guy. I'm doing really well. I can beat him in every position. And then it's like, yeah, okay, let's have a match with this. Yeah, I should be all right. I'll get into this match with this guy. I've been beating him in practice for the last 2 months everywhere. And then you get on the table and they say go, and they're like, "Pah!" And they pin you in half a second, and you're like, I wasn't expecting that. It's like they don't train their explosivity during a practice pool. So yes, it is one of those things that is fun with the arm wrestling world. Mega Mike is the underdog. Yeah, well, I mean, being a schoolboy is moved Leonidas into that pointy end of the elite arm wrestlers, because Schoolboy is a world champion, and he has been on the biggest stages in the world and competed against some of the top guys. He's been around for quite a while now, and he's no slouch when it comes to arm wrestling. And for Leonidas to walk in and have his first match and win is absolutely incredible. So I'm excited to see if he can balance bodybuilding and arm wrestling. We're seeing James English doing the same sort of thing. He'll be taking on Alden Larrett, and that'll be an interesting match as well. But James English also being a bodybuilder, but putting his bodybuilding on the back burner to prepare for this match, but then he did say it's very difficult. He said, I can be a bodybuilder and I can be an arm wrestler. And I'm able to do the training for both. But when an event is coming up, like if it's a bodybuilding competition or if it's an arm wrestling competition, then that sport takes precedence, priority. And so for the moment, he's doing all arm wrestling stuff because he has this match coming up. But straight after the match, I believe he's going into a bodybuilding competition. But yes, Mega Mike, it was decent. Let me bring up the chat here so you guys can see what's going on. Chat window. How do I bring that up so I can show it to everyone? Oh, there we go. That's the one. It should pop up there in a second. There we go. Let me catch up on the comments here. Love the fact that people are writing some stuff in. We've got a nice comment here from Josiah. It says, it doesn't seem to be the norm that muscular endurance carries over. Often folks discuss the strength of tendons and whatnot, which I always thought wasn't built through the classical gym exercises. Yeah, it's going to be different for every single person. And that's what makes this sport so fun, is that everyone brings a unique skill set and a unique genetic thing that makes them either super strong, or maybe they've just got an unbelievable hand, or their elbow integrity is just through the roof, or maybe their side pressure is incredible. And you never really know what someone's going to bring and they won't know themselves until they get on the table, they start doing the sport and then getting adept at it and finding what their skill is. And so for somebody like, we'll say myself, like muscular endurance is definitely a weapon that I can utilize. I can outlast guys and catch them and hold them until they get exhausted. And that's more than likely come from years and years and years in the gym of doing, hypertrophy style workouts where, it's 16 to 25 reps is usually where I'm working. But it may be different for other people who might have got muscular endurance and they don't do higher rep stuff. It's just different for everyone. And everyone brings some level of uniqueness to the table, which is what makes everything really fun. Matt Mask once recounted his training as involving a lot of reaction-based exercises, not much resistance, but trying to respond as quickly as possible to an audio prompt. That's very clever. Yeah, I like that. I know there is an app, or there was an app, and it was just the word ready, go. We've changed with AWE. We don't say ready anymore. We just say go, because I don't like the confusion around that ready, go. I mean, if you're going to say ready, then you should be waiting for the go. People go on ready. So get rid of ready, just say go. But this app, it was just an audio recording of ready, go, and it would play it randomly. And so it might be 8 seconds and then it would say it. And then the next one is 3 seconds, and then it's 10 seconds, and then it's 4 seconds, and then it's 20 seconds. So the idea is you get into like a starting position and you're waiting in your setup, and then it's like that ready, go, and you hit through to the pin pad and you're trying to react as quickly as possible to that audio cue. So Matt Mask doing similar things there, which is very clever. I mean, being able to get that starting position, that immediate, as soon as the referee says go, being able to get that first movement, even if it's half an inch before your opponent can get it, can win you the match. The Drew is here. Oh, what did I miss? You haven't missed anything, Drew. We've only just started, so great to see you in here. Drew, all the way from Las Vegas. The Drew, tut, where have you been? Says Phil Woody. Yeah, so let me get back to the Arm Gods card here. I'll make this bigger again so that you can see what's going on. There we go. Yes, Dean Bolt, James Stewart, that's the match that is selling this card for me. I'm very, very excited about that. Josh Davies and Otto Fogelmans. Josh Davies experiencing, he was on the Arm Wars card as the man with the looser skin. No, not loose skin. Sorry, that's one of our guys from our club. We call him the Sharp Bay. Confusing myself here. No, the thick skin. Thick skin for Josh Davies. To which Dean Bolt, when we were doing the commentary, and I said, "Oh, this is the guy with the thick skin," and he's like, "No, no, he's known as the Tank." I think it was the Tank. He's like, "His name's the Tank," and I'm like, "But it's the thick skin guy." He's like, "It's the Tank." But he shocked a lot of people coming in. Josh Davies. He was able to get a win over a very highly ranked opponent that nobody saw coming, and yeah, was able to bleed him out and talks trash the whole time. He's an entertaining puller, absolutely. I'm not sure about his opponent, but as I said before, Marcus and Paul know these guys inside out, and they would have put a match together that would have just been absolute dynamite. Let me scroll up on that so you can see the next set of matches here. All right. Okay. So Billy Davies and Dane Colvin will be having a right arm match. We've also got Greg Foster and James Wall for the 95 kilo or under 95 kilo arm gods belt on the left arm. That will be interesting. James Wall being a very experienced puller, really rising through the ranks and making a name for himself, especially over in the UK. He's the man at the moment. So I'm not sure if I've seen him pull on the left. So this will be interesting for me. I'm not sure if his left is as high quality as his right, but yeah, I always will watch whenever James Wall is on the card there. We've also got Nathan Davey and Dan Tutt on a right arm match there as well. Human Ruse and Scott Barrett will also be doing a right arm match. This is only half the card. There's still another half of the card that we'll bring up. I'll be at Arm Gods Wales. If you need any info on the pullers, Matt, just shout. Fantastic. Thank you, Phil. Dan Earthquake. I think this is the first time we've seen you. That's the Mini Tank. That's the one. Mini Tank or Road Warrior. There you go. Not the think skin. I was getting blasted by Dean for saying that, and which made me just say it more because it was funny. Mini Tank. That's right. Yes, I remember that. Or Road Warrior. I haven't heard that one. So he's got 3 nicknames now, but obviously he's going to choose one of those. Mini Tank, Road Warrior. He's probably not going to go with a thick skin one. That's just a silly one, but great to see Dan Earthquake in here. Dan, one of the I was going to say facilitator, but he's definitely involved with the running of Arm Gods events, and was doing all the tournament brackets and that sort of thing when we were over there for Arm Gods Valhalla. Great to see you in here. But yes, so Phil Woody, can you tell me about Greg Foster, the opponent for James Wall? I would love to know what we're looking at for that match, because and is James's left arm as good as his right? Because I know he is an absolute weapon on his right arm. Let me bring up the next card here. So that's only half the card for Arm Gods. I'm going to bring up the other half. Just got to bring it up as an image, because when I bring it up as a tab, it's way too far zoomed away and you can't see the actual image. So bring that one up there. Stop sharing that one, and I'll share this one instead. All right. We'll go back there. There we go. Dwayne Rees and Harley Potter right arm Southern title match. These guys look like they're quite big. I think I've seen Harley before. This is one of those things that it can make it tricky when you're not 100% familiar with all of the pullers. But as I said, I know that Paul and Marcus would have put together a fantastic card, and the great thing is that I'll be watching regardless, but I get to learn about all these guys and then maybe pick a new favorite. Got a couple of more comments in here. Dan Earthquake says, sometimes I listen to the morning radio interviews with politicians. Every time the voice changes, you hit the wait or spring as the ready go. I listen often, Matt, but usually busy. Oh, thank you, sir. I'll listen to you. Yes, I appreciate that. That's great. It's always good to see you, Dan. Whenever I see you on any of the streams or any of the videos, I'm like, there's Dan. Yeah, tremendous guy. I saw the amount of effort that you put in to helping make sure that event ran well, and yeah, it was very, very appreciated. And you competed as well. Greg Foster beat James Wall left. Oh, okay, a pro national. So maybe this is a revenge match for James here. He's beat him on left at the Pro Nationals. Was that in a super match or was that in a tournament format? Pro Nationals. Maybe it was a tournament. Yeah. Well, this is great. If you do get the opportunity to have a rematch, it's always fun, especially if there's been a significant amount of time, because you would hope that your skill has improved and it continues to improve. And James Wall, being the hard worker that he is and trying to take as many matches as he can, if he's got a loss on his record, obviously he wants to avenge that. So I'm sure when Paul Maiden gave him the opportunity, said, "Hey, Greg Foster, what do you think? Left arm." It's like, yes, I want to do that. I want to get that win back. And Dwayne Rees and Harley Potter both around 6'8". Oh God, yeah, they look big. Even in the photos, you can sort of see. Dwayne won novice nationals, and Harley Potter came second. Wow, man, 100. What was it? 6'8", two giants. You got some giants on this card. James Stewart, Dean Bolt, two giants in there as well. And yeah, 6'8" for Dwayne Rees and Harley Potter. And Muscle Bike is here. He says, "Ow!" Thank you, Muscle Bike. Great to see you in here. And Dan Earthquake says it was a tournament for pro nationals. Yeah. It's one of those things. With tournaments, obviously, if you win, you win. But there is that context that comes with tournaments, because you can say, well, what matches did you have previously? What matches did your opponent have previously leading into that? Because it can affect the outcome. If you've had a war, if you had 3 wars in a row, and then you're stepping up against somebody who's like an explosive flash pinner, and they've spent 3 seconds on the table, and you've had a total of like 4 minutes. It can be the difference between winning and losing. You're going into a match exhausted, but it is still James Wall, and he is a very, very good arm wrestler. And so for Greg to get the win in any which way, he was the winner. And if you're in a tournament, that's the conditions you accept. You accept that you may have a very tough match, and you're going to get into potential wars, and then you're going to have matches straight after that. And that's the reality, and you're accepted that if you're entering a tournament. Muscle Bike, how are you keeping, Matt? I'm doing very well, thank you, sir. Great to see you in here. We're talking about the Arm Gold's Wales card, as you can see. And we've got Dan Earthquake and Phil Woody and the Drew, and who else is in here? We had Eric in here as well. So we've got some of the legends from the UK, a lot of them, which is great to see. I'm not sure what time it is over there, but always good to have you guys here. Muscle Bike. Dan just says bike. He's dropped the muscle. He's just gone down to bike. I'm at the airport, off to IFA Euros. Oh, fantastic. I hope everything goes well for you over there. The IFA. There's a bit of a controversy or an issue happening with IFA and WAF. Was it we had? There was a banned athlete that competed in one of the tournaments over in the US, and then someone made a phone call and they said, you've got to, if you ever run a tournament and include banned athletes in them again, then you won't be running any tournaments under our banner, and none of your athletes will be competing with us anymore. So I think was the gist of the outcome of the discussion there. But the athlete that was banned under the WAF organization, and this is the IFA organization. So there was that question mark as to, well, do we have to uphold other people's bans? And what authority carries globally. But obviously people who are in a position of influence or position of running major promotions have that ability to sort of throw the weight around in some regards as to, well, if you don't do that, then we won't include any of your guys in the future, or there's penalties that they can implement which can affect your ability to compete in tournaments or run tournaments or have opportunities on big cards. So yeah, difficult. But at the end of the day, if the guy is banned, he entered a tournament where he knew there was drug testing and he got caught. So what can you do? Safe trip, Dan. Cheers, Bike. I love that. That's great. Every name has to be shortened. It can't be just Muscle Bike. It's just Bike now. 3:45 in the morning. Wow. So an early flight for Dan Earthquake there. All right, which match were we up to here? So we've got Scott James and Reese Aldridge, Oni Jackson and Hassan Al Hakim. That's a left arm. There's a lot of left arm matches on here. Here's another one: Drew Holloway and Lewis Alexander. Another left arm match there. I'm just going to scroll up a little bit so I can see the rest of this. There's a lot of matches on this card. Fantastic. Arm Gods. I think the way that it works with Arm Gods, you just got to be a subscriber on their website, and you have access to not only this event but all of their previous events. And it's, I don't know, it's like $4, $4 or $5 or something a month, which is absolutely insane. So the quality of events that they're putting on for such a low price is just outrageous. It's almost, you almost would say, guys, you're almost ripping yourself off here. Like you guys could charge a lot more for this, but they want to keep it affordable. They want to make it available for as many people as possible. And that's why you're seeing them do it in this format. But another left arm match. Look at this: Ryan Barber and Nick Dodd. It almost looks like all zeros there. Nick O. But another left arm match. There is, I don't know, was there 7 left arm matches on this card? And then I shouldn't jump ahead of myself, but down the bottom there, Tom Mitchell and Jason Hill is another left arm match as well. Incredible. That's for the under 75 kilo belt. Daff Lewis and Paul Waters, AW Daff. He's in the comments every now and then. Love to see when he is here, and it's always exciting to see him on a card, regardless win, lose, or draw. AW Daff will put on a show. Murray Whitehead and Lloyd Herpiker is the only other one. Murray, lovely guy, met him over in Ireland. Softly spoken, but very, very powerful and adept technical puller. So that will be a fun match to watch as well. Anytime Murray is on the card, you want to jump on and see that. Muscle Bike says, I get muscle and bike all the time. What is the story? Oh, it's a muscle bike. Okay, yeah, it's about the motorbike that you own. A muscle car, a muscle bike. I get it now. All right. I thought it might have been you, particular, like physicality, but that's quite good. Either or. Muscle Bike says, yes, you subscribe for $5 a month and you get the whole lot, including discounted tickets and merch. It's about the fans. There you go. Yes, it is more complicated than that. That was a very brief summary, but yeah, Tim Tolmans explained that he had been told to ban the puller on say-so of Coach Ray, Latvian president affiliated to WAF. If he didn't, they wouldn't participate in his events. There you go. That's the long and the short of it there. So yeah, it's a bit frustrating to well, I guess if an athlete has entered a competition knowing that there is a possibility that they could get tested and a ban could be likely, and they've accepted that reality and they've gone into the competition and they have gotten caught, you know, you'd almost have to say, look, mate, like the amount of competitions that are out there that aren't tested, why did you go in the one that is tested? You could have done any of the other ones. But yeah, if you've chosen that path, you've sort of got to live with the consequences. And if you're then like, okay, fine, I'll go and pull with these other organizations. And Tim said, hey, I didn't know this guy was banned. Like, how are you supposed to tell? You've got, say, 200 people sign up for your tournament. Unless you know, like, everyone that's pulling, and unless you're correlating that info with like a band list and just searching through, like, and that's going to add extra time. And it's like, so I think from what Tim was saying, he was on the show with us last week, that, because I said, how are you going to check? Like, how are you going to check? And he said, I'm just going to, like, if somebody tells me this person's banned, then I'll investigate it. And if they are, then they'll be straight out. I won't be able to compete anymore. So fair enough. The Drew says, armgods.com, £5, easy peasy. You get way more than you deserve with that membership. Absolutely. I've been a member on there for, it's probably coming up on a year now, I think. And they also have a sponsorship package thing now as well, where you can jump in and they've got different levels that you can pay to have either your business or your name, just to show that you're a supporter of Arm Gods. And I think the starting package is £25, and then you can move all the way up to 500, and each one gives you a different level of exposure. So I was talking about that with Paul the other day. It's on their website as well, so you can probably bring that up if I jump over to the card here onto the website again. That's an image. Let me share this one, because I think it is great that they have the ability for their fans and for people who want to support Arm Gods to be able to. Now, let me jump back to their main page, because I saw this on here the other day. So I've signed up for the $25 sponsorship package. Where are we? Let's see if I can find it here quickly for you guys, or I might have to bring up the link that Paul Maiden sent me. Let's run your sponsors. Sponsors agents, yeah, that might be the one. Sponsor packs, I think that is it there. Here we go. All right. And yeah, here we go. So there's the different packages that you can jump on if you want to support Arm Gods. And yes, you can see what each level will give you in terms of exposure for your brand, for your company, or if you just want to put your name and say, hey, I'm Dan Earthquake, and just in the background you see that Dan Earthquake is a supporter of Arm Gods, or if you have a business or anything, it's always a great idea. I'll scroll down a bit further. You can see the rest of the packages there. So it's £25, £75, £150, and £500. And obviously the £500 is your premium one there. You get all of the features available, 1 year membership with the company logo on the digital wall. Basically, they're going to do what they can to make sure that your company gets a lot of exposure through their media. But it's more about supporting the guys, and especially having the ability for £25 to jump on and just say, look, I really appreciate everything you guys are doing. Here's £25 towards putting on future massively awesome events. Let me jump back to my main screen here. I'll get the chat back up. Chat overlay. Where are we? Hide, bring the chat up. That's what I want to do. That's the one there. All right, great. Imagine Coach Ray yelling up to you. There you go. Well, Coach Ray is in a position where he had to make that call. If he's running an organization, or he's running a certain division of an organization that may be overseeing, or an overseeing body, then he's in a position where if he knows that somebody is banned and they're competing in a tournament and he allows it, it's not his tournament, but he may, once he finds out about the information, it's like, look, I gotta put a stop to this, because this could affect me. Like, if he's running his area and then they say, look, he got banned under your organization and here he is competing over in America and these guys are affiliated with you as well, so that's going to look bad for you. So, you can understand Coach Ray's position there. It's like, look, the puller might be an awesome guy. I'm saying, look, I have no problems with the puller himself. It's just he is literally he's banned for a few years. I'm not sure how long the ban is, but it's probably 3 or 4 years. And during that time, it's like you can't compete in these events. But there you go. Sylvester Stallone. I love that. That's so good. My dad Neil is gonna be pissed. All right. What's he gonna be pissed about? I'm probably a little bit behind on the comments here. The Drew says, I'm amongst the first members myself. Well, there you go. The Drew, always a big supporter of arm wrestling. Any stream. I don't think I've ever seen a stream when you haven't been on there. Just ring this up, lads. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Be a supporter. Support arm wrestling, because the better that Arm Gods does, the better it is for us here in Australia, the better it is for here locally in South Australia. The more people that see it, the more interest there is, the more people that want to get on the table, the more training partners you're going to have, the more people you're going to have attend your tournaments, the more people you're going to have going to your events. More exposure, the better. And so when a company says, hey, we've got an option that you can help us out, I'm going to be jumping all over that. Dan Earthquake says, imagine you came to Arm Gods tournament in Ireland from Australia and someone calls Paul and you out. Oh, someone calls Paul and you're out. Yeah. Tim in a tough position with his friends. It is a difficult thing. Yeah, absolutely. It's not a great situation for anyone, really, because Tim is in a position now where he has to go and tell a guy, hey, look, you can't compete with us. Coach Ray's in a position where he has to make a call to Tim and say, look, there's a guy that's competing with you that's actually banned, and you're going to have to tell him that he can't, but that is the situation that was out there. And again, it is one of those things. If you're going to enter a competition that's tested and you get caught, there are repercussions that come along with that. So it is difficult. Oops. Muscle Bike says, legend has it the 500-pound package is named after Levan's weight. How much pounds is Levan? I know he's like 180 kilos. It is 180 times 2.2, 396. Well, he's almost there. But he's a monster of a man, isn't he, Levan? Absolute giant, and able to get the win over Devon Larratt in the rematch comfortably. The only moment where he had any sort of difficulty was that first round, until he figured out to just press through. But yes, what an incredible moment that was. I was like, oh my God, Devon's going to do it here. Sylvester Stallone says he doesn't care about performance-enhancing drugs, so it's all lost on me. That's fair enough. Yeah, that's it. I think the way that sports are going, and I think the future of sports is it's going to get to a point where they're like, just do what you want. There's too many bloody drugs out there. There's too many masking agents. There's too many abilities to completely manipulate your genes and your DNA, and it's just going to be like somebody's going to figure out how to make themselves like a Captain America, and then it's like, well, he's Captain America now. He can run faster, jump higher, more endurance, more powerful, and there's a whole country full of them. And it's like, and then everyone else is starting to do the same thing, and yeah, you're going to test everyone their genes, or I don't know. It's just, I don't see that being the way forwards is to is testing. I'm not a huge fan of putting money towards that side of things at this point in the sport. The Drew says there's streams you don't even know about. Oh, well, there probably is. The great thing about the uprise of arm wrestling is you're seeing people from all around the world being able to start their own organizations, start their own clubs, start their own streams, have their tournaments, have their events. And it's like suddenly you're seeing, events popping up left, right, and center. And, even the last 2 years, you got AWE, we started just over a year ago. You've got Arm Gods, you've got Knuckles Up. These are all relatively new organizations. Was it MAC had just had their first event? You've also got the AWC, I think it is AWC from in Canada. These organizations weren't around that long ago. And it's like, well, that just is a testament to this rise that's happening with arm wrestling. And it's fantastic to see it. Our club here in Adelaide has gone from 3 members when we first started 5 years ago on Tim Graham's driveway. There was 3 of us, and we're up to about 40 people that come along to training every week now, which is, insane. It's weird for me to go to a training session and not get on the table with every single person there. And there's a couple of people that I haven't got on the table with at all. Like I just haven't had time to get around to everybody. in terms of like they've been there multiple times, and it's like, oh, there's that guy. I'll make sure I get on the table with him in 20 minutes, and it's like, and then an hour's gone, you're on with somebody else, and yeah, it's fun. It's insane actually to think that the growth of the sport is pushing so rapidly. It's amazing. Dan got banned by WAF for signing up to the ERPA system before I even competed. Yeah, yeah. The difficult thing is having two rival organizations that I know there was a lot of bad blood between them. I'm not sure if it's still at that level, but yeah, there was a point where if you got seen in a photo with somebody, then they would ban you. Like it was just insane. Like it's grow up, guys. I mean, seriously, if you want to grow the sport, you want to get as many people to be able to compete in as many tournaments as possible around the world. What are you banning people for? Like, fair enough if they've done something that's very much against the rules that were outlined. But if you're just banning someone just because they're competing with another organization, it's insane. It's just like, why it, and I'm sure that at that point there's no like contracts in place that were exclusive. It's different if you sign an exclusive contract to say we don't have them, but if we had like with AWE, you sign exclusive with AWE, you can't compete anywhere else, and then you go compete somewhere else. It's like, okay, look, yeah, you've gone against the contract there. But in this situation, it's just like, oh, which group, which tribe do you belong to? Are you pulling with WAF? Are you pulling with IFA? Are you pulling with ERPA? Yeah, so. And if you are, then you're against us. So you're not allowed to compete with us, and it just creates division. It's not fun at all. The line between healing and enhancement blurs. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, it's one of those things with drug testing. The tests themselves actually cost quite a lot of money. They've got like urine tests and stuff where they can test for like 8 different drugs, cocaine and marijuana and all that sort of thing. But if you want to do like a proper blood test where you're checking to see if somebody's got elevated levels of testosterone, or if they've got foreign agents, dianabol, stanozol, all these other elements in their blood, to be able to prove that they are taking an illegal substance for that event, those cost like a couple of $1,000s. And so you'll find that the events that are tested, they're probably only running 1 or 2 tests. So they're going to pick somebody out. Usually it's the winner of the tournament. And then somebody that they think doesn't pass the sniff test, or maybe they've got some inside goss on. But yes, it's almost an interesting path to go down to look at drug testing and say that's where we want to be pushing. It's like, well, surely that money, like say you've got 2 tests and they cost $2,000 each. It's like, well, couldn't you have taken that 4,000 and put it into making the event better? Like, you're doing 2 tests. I'm sure that there's probably 30 guys in that tournament that are on gear. So you're catching 2 and you've got 28 that still got through and won. So I don't know. It's just, I'd rather put money into making the sport better. I blame Angonetti's caterpillar eyebrows, says Muscle Bite. Sylvester Stallone, knuckles up. We the North. We the North. Oh, we the North? I don't think I've heard of that one. The high five, yes, absolutely. Well, knuckles up and high five, aren't they the same thing? 217, 98%, absolutely. Yeah, seeing a lot of organizations, a lot of groups, a lot of people that are getting on streams, and 98% does a stream like every Friday night, and it goes for like 7 hours, and anybody can just jump in at any point and chat with the guys there. I think Ryan Grondin, who runs that, has fallen asleep on stream several times. Dan Earthquake says Engen is under the cosh too. If he doesn't defer to WAF, he can't promote his event in Turkey. So it's pervasive. Arm Gods, AWE, etc. are an alternative. Absolutely. Great to have alternatives as well. Like if you're an athlete that, maybe your goal is to win the belt in Arm Gods, and it's like, that's where I'm training for, and that's where I'm putting my focus. I want to be the left-handed 115 kilo champion in Arm Gods. Then you've got the ability to do that. And it would be horrible if you were banned from that opportunity. So yes, not a fan of bans. Allow people to go and compete in the sport as much as possible. With the North, Magda in Canada. I haven't heard of them, but fantastic that they are. There's another one, another organization that's out there. Dan Earthquake says the IFA is open entry, so people like me get to pull without qualifying. Is IFA really competing with WAF? It's an alternative, and WAF don't like it. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? With companies and organizations, I know that with a lot of the governments in Europe and Eastern Europe, particularly, that they give money to arm wrestling. Like if you can be like a professional arm wrestler, and they'll provide a certain amount of funding for you for the year. I think the question with that though was that the funding would go to like a WAF president or like somebody who was in a leadership position, and then it was distributed to the athlete. And I don't know whether all of the money was going through. This is the rumor that I've heard, but yes, it does have those a competition between WAF and IFA. To be honest, I'm not really that interested in what they do in terms of like if they have problems with each other, and it's like, or if there's drama, or if it's like, I just care about the arm wrestling. Like, you guys can hate each other and fight each other, and at the end of the day, I just want to watch people arm wrestle. We have the Welsh Wolverine himself, Dean Bolt. How? Oh, says the Welsh Wolverine, Dean Bolt. He has one of the matches we were talking about just earlier. He'll be facing off against the Giant in James Stewart at Arm Gods Wales. Be an absolutely tremendous match. It is a left-hand match, and James Stewart being 165 kilos and a monster of a man. He wore a kilt, I believe, to the Arm Gods Valhalla event. Huge guy, but how is the preparation and everything going for you, Dean? Great to see you in here. The WAF, strictest rule sets, the stricter monopoly over the sport. Yeah, I don't think they've got a monopoly over the sport. We were just talking about the amount of other organizations that are out there. The WAF has just probably been around longer or has more, structures in different areas of the world, but I think it's far from a monopoly. And I don't think I've ever competed with WAF. We've got the AAF here in Australia, which I think is a derivative of that. But the alternative here is obviously AWE. Dean, everyone's saying hello to Dean. Huge match. He's feeling good. I actually got a package from Dean, and should I open it on stream? Because I just got it today. Dean Bolt sent me a package. I'm very tempted to just run off and grab it, and I'm going to do that. Actually, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to open it. Just give me like 20 seconds. Bing. All right. So this should be interesting. I hope there's nothing. Yeah, now this will be embarrassing. There better not be any sex toys or anything in here. Must buy your famous enough in the sport without doing an unboxing. Oh, you're famous enough to do an unboxing. Yeah, there we go. Is it anal beads? We're gonna find out. Oh, this is gonna be great. The reason that Dean has sent me something is when we were doing the commentary together, we were coming up with nicknames for everyone that we weren't sure who they were. Because when you get a tournament, you get a whole bunch of people that you're not familiar with, and so we didn't have a tournament bracket in front of us. It was just like, okay, well, who's this guy? We'll just make up a nickname on their appearance. And bathwater. Is it bathwater? Says Dan Earthquake. Oh, and Sylvester Stallone, a gallon of lube. That's fantastic. Oh man, that's great. Yeah, so we're making up nicknames for everyone that was coming up to the table And one of the guys he had a lovely, very kept beard, and he had his top button done up very tightly here. It was like a t-shirt, but he did this button up for some reason, and he was flash pinning everybody. And we ended up giving him the nickname of Button Flashbeard. And he actually, I think he won his class as well. But Button Flashbeard was, every time he stepped up to the table, we thought that was quite funny. And he pinned me as well. And I said, I'm going to make a t-shirt that says I got pinned by Button Flashbeard. And I actually did. I made that t-shirt and I sent it to Dean without telling him. And it took fucking ages to get there. Well, I think it was like, I don't know, a month after I'd sent it, it finally got there. And I didn't say anything to Dean. I didn't feel like, hey, any packages in the mail or anything. I just waited. And it was like a month. I'm like, man, maybe it got lost. But then one day on Facebook, there was the t-shirt held up by Dean Bolt, and it had made it there, and he had a great laugh about it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then he said, oh, let me send you something back. I was like, you don't have to. He said, no. And so this is it. So let's find out what we got from Mr. Bolt. Whoa, there's a lot of stuff in here. Dropping it, there's so much stuff. All right, I have to go through each thing. I think there is a lot of things in here. Look at the packaging. Wow. Oh, we've got a letter. What is this, a letter? Awesome surprise. The Wolf Wolverine. We've got a lot of t-shirts, it looks like. The Wolf Wolverine starter kit. It says included is a St. David's flag. It's a real flag of Wales. An arm warmer, a headband, an IFA World tee from the first one, and an official Welsh Wolverine tee, adult size only. You're not making it for kids. That's great. What have we got in here? Oh, and there we go. Have a look at this. Dean Bolt. That is the man that will be competing July the 6th against James Stewart. Oh, we've got a few of these. Fantastic. To AWE. I was written one for AWE and to Hollywood Matt Connelly. That's fantastic. Good on you. And we've got some amazing t-shirts and bandanas and all sorts of things here. What a great thing from Dean Bolt. What we got? T-shirt here. That one. All right. A bunch of stuff here. Thank you very much, Dean. This is incredible. This is a fun thing to be able to do this live with you guys. I didn't know it was going to be in here. I love the fact that it said bathwater. So good. Arm wrestling, the IFA World. Arm wrestling is my life. And wow, this is a nice one. The Arm Wrestling IFA World from Poland in 2019. We've also got, there's an arm sleeve. These are always handy. Oh, let me hold it up the correct way. Turn it around. There we go. Arm wrestling. Have a look at that. This thing is really handy when you get that burn on your elbow. If you've been on the table for hours and then this starts to get that carpet burn, and then every time you get on the table for the next few weeks, he keeps scraping off the scab that's there and leaving blood all over the table. So if you have one of these, it's actually really handy, because even if you put band-aids and stuff there, they still ended up sort of working their way off. But if you cover it with the arm sleeve, it still allows you to move and slide around without having to worry about that. And we've got, what is this, a bandana? This is the bandana, the Welsh Wolverine bandana. Fantastic. And I believe that's the flag of Wales there. Is that the one? Might not be able to open it all on here. Maybe able to. Whoa. Yeah. You're probably not going to see all of it, but that's the flag. Wow. What a swag. Thank you, Dean. Incredible. What a good guy. His match, again, coming up, I'm going to Wales against James Stewart. Left-handed match should be absolutely amazing. So thank you, Dean, for the swag package there. I was very excited to send you that t-shirt. I've made myself laugh a lot when I was creating it. Uh, Button Flashbeard, yeah, that's right. We had Button Flashbeard, we had the template, uh, we had Nipzilla. Who else was there? Captain Mullet, the lawyer. There was a whole bunch. It was a lot of fun. It's being framed in my cigar room. You got a cigar room? That's awesome. Button Flashbeard was a ringer. Yeah, yeah, that was the unfortunate thing that somebody who is of that caliber decides to enter the novice. So yeah, Button Flashbeard, he was a podium finisher at the WAF, the World Championships, and he decided to enter the novice division, which is like, you're not a novice, mate. What are you doing in this? Why are you entering this division? It's almost like the same thing we were talking about before, where if you know that you're on gear and they're testing for stuff, then why would you enter that? It's like if you're a world champion or a potential second, third place finisher in the world at your weight class, why are you entering the beginners class? I had people asking me, like, I was saying I shouldn't have entered the division, the novice division. I was like, you realize I've never won a match in a tournament? They're like, oh, it's like, yeah. I was 0-12 going into that. So yeah, it's like, can I just enter the novices, please? I'm not like, I can't get a win in the novices, then why would I jump up to the professional? Muscle Bike was waiting for the sheep. Absolutely. Swag bag is decent. It was fantastic. Not as much blood as tack match at Arm Gods, though. That's true. That is true. Their tack match was some sight to behold. And you haven't seen Beer Man since. Well, I've seen him on streams. I don't know if he's had a match or he's lined up for a match. No, we did. We saw him at MAC. We saw Evan Burgoyne compete at MAC, which was a new organization in America with a different style of table. The normal table is flat across the top. The MAC table, it comes to about there and then it dips in the center and comes back up. So the idea being the pad, I think it was 10x8 as opposed to the 7x7 pads. So there's a lot more room to move around. And the only time they would call an elbow foul is if it went above the horizontal height of the table. Yeah, the event ran really well. I mean, the great thing is that people are trying different things and seeing what works and what doesn't. Yeah, the MAC, absolutely. The template was my favorite. I do like that, yeah, because the template when I don't actually know what his real name is. I just know him as Template. I hope people call him Template now. But when he came up to the table, there was nothing unique like that was very obvious about him that you could make something on. He didn't have like a fancy beard or a funny t-shirt or a silly hat, or he was in like, I don't know, jeans and a gray t-shirt or something, and just had a very sensible look about him. And it was like, I said, oh, this looks like the template for like if you're going to load into like Grand Theft Auto or something and you've got your character, this is what they start looking like. They start to look like this, and then you can add in your customizations, different haircuts and shirts and all the rest of it. But yeah, it was a very fitting name. Oh, thanks a lot, dude. After seeing you pull, yeah, definitely enter the novice. Yeah. Well, hey, I got my first 4 wins in the novice class, but I started out, my first match was against Button Flashbeard, and I got instant pinned, which was how I've been beaten constantly. So it was nothing new to me there. Yeah, flash pin. Okay, right, yeah. And then I went up for the second round, expecting to just get pinned again, and actually got the win. I was like, oh, hey, did I win that? But what happens now? Okay. I went back to the commentary, and then Dan came over, and I think this is what Dan said. You might be a big deal in Australia, but over here, you need to come up and tell us when you've won your match. And I was like, Oh, okay, I've never won a match before. He's like, oh, well, congratulations. uh, the MAC, that's right. Well, you fancy Big Mac now because of MAC. Well, there you go. Big Mac. The weird thing is, in America, they call it a sandwich, which I thought was very strange. Instead of a burger, like the Big Mac burger, they call it a Big Mac sandwich. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then they call the meat patty the burger. So I don't know. Dan Earthquake says, I run a tournament based on Japanese arm sumo. Freedom to move anywhere on a round table. Tag team format. Wow. Dean won this year. Wow. I haven't heard of that before. Where can we see that, Dan? Is there a video or an event I can go and watch? Because that sounds like something I would love to see. Is that one of those ones where you've got to hold somebody off the edge of the table for like 3 seconds or something? I think I've heard something about that. But yeah, I'd love to see that. Tag team format. Who's next for Corey West? That's an interesting question. Not sure. Corey West being an amazing arm wrestler. Obviously, Michael Todd and him train together frequently. I think Corey's almost at 200 kilos, which is what, 440 pounds or something. Let me do this calculation again. 2.2. Yeah, 440 pounds, which, he's an absolute giant. We did see him break his arm about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago in a tournament. He still competed and on his other arm and had a massive bag of ice strapped to his broken arm. Maybe Terry's bicep who broke his arm. Might have done the bicep. Yeah, but Corey West, a very, very powerful individual. Slancha, lads. It might be heading off. If you are, Michael White, great to see you. Thanks for popping in. But yes, Corey West. What's interesting with Corey and being that big, around the 200 kilo mark, this I felt like it sort of worked against him when he had one of those matches on East versus West because of the really long, drawn out setups. That first round that he had there, and can't remember who he was going against, but they were setting up for so long, and Corey is pouring out with sweat. They had a start, and then it was like, there was a elbow foul. They had to start again, and then somebody got chalk, and then they had to start again, and then there was another elbow foul from the other guy, and then they slipped, and then they got strapped, and then there was another elbow foul. So that first round, which I think he lost, it took, I don't know, 15 minutes or something, and it's like 15 minutes of being in position and being apprehensive and trying to be locked in mentally. And yeah, he was sweating, and it was like, wow, he looks like he's exhausted here. This is round 1 of 6. So yeah, maybe that was a tactic by his opponent to drag out the early rounds and get Corey tired, but it seemed to be what happened with him in that. And one of those things that a lot of people are not training, and this is something Mario Tambakas and Lachlan Carpenter here in Australia taught me or explained to me, that in their training, they do a lot of time holding positions in a setup. And so they lock themselves into a position with their grip, and then they'll just hold that for 45 seconds, like a static position, and let their opponent or their training person they're training with try to sort of regrip or trying to push into different spots while they just hold that spot that they want. It's very clever. It's an area that a lot of people do ignore. And you can be on the table and working back and forth with people and doing slow pulls, but that setup and that start is critical to whether or not you can get what you need. As soon as that go happens, if you're already in a position where you can start rolling through, then you may have won the match just from the way you set up. The Claymore. Dan, you're an early bird too. And great to see the Claymore in here. Must be over in the UK. is Corey West's comeback match versus Brian Shaw. I don't know if that's a big enough match. And it sounds silly because Corey is, he's at that top level and he's like 200 kilos, and Brian Shaw obviously being a monster of a man. But in terms of a promotion or from a promoter's aspect, if you're putting Brian Shaw on for an arm wrestling match, you want to make as much money as possible and you want to get as much interest as possible. Corey West, he in the arm wrestling world, everyone knows who he is and knows he's fantastic and phenomenal. But from the outside, Brian Shaw would be bringing the viewership and bringing the audience. And it's like, you want to put him against somebody who is going to equal his amount of attention or exceed it. If you've got Brian Shaw versus Corey West, the arm wrestling community would be like, oh, that'd be great. The outside community, I don't think they would be as receptive to that. They'd be like, don't know who this guy is. Who are you going against? We know Brian Shaw, don't know this other guy. So yeah, I think they'll more than likely have Brian Shaw's first match against somebody with a very big following. That's what I would do if I was a promoter. I am a promoter if I was promoting that match. Dan Earthquake's on the way to the airport. Big queues at Birmingham due to building work and new security. So got here last night. Very clever, Dan Earthquake. Get in early. Hope you enjoy, mate. Kick ass. There you go. Cameron Grates from Adelaide, Australia. Well, and so he's not from Adelaide, he's from the country area, but who do you got for East versus West 13 or 14? Jerry versus Alex. Ooh, that is a very difficult question to answer there. Alex Cadecia has looked phenomenal in his most recent matches. Yeah, he's a powerhouse, man. Jerry as well. He looks fit at the moment. If you guys have seen him lately, but he looks lean. He was on the podcast with us maybe a month ago, and he looked like he was getting ready for a bodybuilding competition. His shoulders and his traps, and there was vascularity in his arms. It was like, who is this? This Jerry Carteret has really stepped up his physique. He's looking amazing. But wow, that's a tough match to answer. But if Jerry is looking for a match with Levan, and I know he is, and I'd like to see that, then if you think you can beat the number one in the world, you should be able to beat anyone beneath that. If Alex is rated third or fourth, it's like Jerry's belief in himself that he could be number one in the world should allow him to be competitive enough that say, look, it doesn't matter who I'm going against. Like, my goal is to be number one in the world, to be at the top of the mountain, and I'll beat whoever I've got to beat to get there. But yeah, that super heavyweight division is just full of absolute monsters and killers. Everyone's enormous. Everyone's incredibly strong. Yeah, you match anyone against anyone in that top 10, and you could have a 50-50 apart from Levan. Levan, I think, is still quite ahead of everybody else. Brian Shaw versus Big Loss. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think you'll either see, and I really hope they don't do this, Brian Shaw versus Levan. I really hope they don't do that first. I don't think it's going to be good at all. It's not going to be good for Levan. I think he would just be able to run through Brian, and I don't think it's going to be good for Brian to be beaten either. I think he needs a couple of matches to build that momentum. There's so much about arm wrestling that isn't just being strong and being big and being powerful and being able to dominate your opponent. It's the setups, the experience, the knowledge, where, when, explosivity, timing, all those things take time to develop. And, it's great to see that Brian is putting the time in on the table and training with people of world caliber class like Devin Larratt. But, if he goes against somebody who knows how to stop him getting into his strong areas, and they can just pull in a position where you can't have that. Now what are you going to do? Like, he may end up looking very new on the table as opposed to being very dominant. And if you're a promoter bringing this guy in, the world's strongest man and massive, was he 6'8" or something, giant, and you want to step him on the table and have a million people watch, you don't want to make him look like he has no idea what he's doing. So I don't think that they'll have a Levan match first up. I really hope they don't. But yeah, there'll be another big name, I think, that will be his first match. And yeah, Brian Shaw versus Eddie Hall. It makes more sense to me that they would have that as opposed to Corey West. Even though from a legitimate aspect, you could say, well, yeah, but Eddie Hall's not an arm wrestler either. But if you've got Eddie Hall versus Brian Shaw, you've got an instant inbuilt storyline. You've got two guys that both have won World's Strongest Man title, both enormous. Everyone knows them as being super strong, super powerful, and going against each other would bring a lot of attention, regardless as to the actual skill level. Yeah, I would just be concerned that these guys hopefully don't injure themselves because, it's just different. Guys know what it's like when you jump into a match and you're just throwing 100% on everything. And so, when you've coordinated the movements so that they're natural, so you're not pulling in dangerous positions, your 100% is in a safe position, but you may see both these guys go on pure side pressure. And the worst thing that could happen is one of these guys breaks their arms, like if they did that match and then like everyone's watching and one of the guys breaks their arms, it's like, it's a disaster. Because every single person that saw that will then correlate arm wrestling with it breaks your arm. But we'll see what happens. I think he's going to take some time to develop his skill set first. I think it's very clever. I'm not a fan of somebody jumping into a sport and then getting an instant, really difficult opponent or big opportunity straight away before you know that they're actually at the level they need to be or could be, because it's like, it's just a cash grab at that point. You're taking someone's name, you're putting it on there, and people will watch, but they're not good. They don't know what they're doing. Whereas somebody who takes their time to build up their skills and has a few matches, and then it's like, okay, this person's legitimately quite good at this, as well as bringing the attention, then I think that always works a lot better. And I felt that way with the Thor match with him and Eddie Hall. So Hapor Bjornsson, who is also another World's Strongest Man, and Eddie Hall had their boxing match. And I think Thor had done a couple of years of boxing training leading into that, and he'd had 3 amateur matches leading up to his match with Eddie Hall, which I thought was very, very clever. Have matches in a proper scenario against people, see where you're at, because you don't want to be stepping into the actual event never having competed before. And you could see the difference in the abilities that they had there. Thor able to keep calm, control his breathing a lot better, and control the distance. He did get hit a couple of times by Eddie's big wild haymakers, but the discipline and the skill that he demonstrated was of somebody who had been training for a lot longer than what Eddie Hall had been. Cameron Great says, personally, I think Brian's first pro match should be against me. It's very, very close. Okay. Probably not going to happen, Cameron. But great that you're calling him out. I'm sure he'll consider it. Brian Shaw versus Tom Stoltman might be a better match. Potentially. I don't think you'll see. I would be surprised if it's against another pure arm wrestler, unless it's somebody with a really big name. I mean, Devin is obviously taken because he's training with him, but yeah, it's hard to sort of say. I think it's going to be more of a celebrity match. I think it's going to be more of a novelty is going to be his first match, and they're going to get 2 people with big followings. They're going to get together and they'll have a big event spectacle. Yeah, one of the things that Larry Wheels did that I thought was very clever, and I really respected Larry for doing this, was that his first match, he went against Schoolboy. And Schoolboy has his own built-in storyline, and at that time, he was still quite young. I mean, he's young now, but he was, I don't know, 19 or something back then. And he wears the funny Tom and Jerry t-shirts. He's got the glasses. He had the backpack, and he looked like the school kid. And it's like, okay, Larry Wheels, who is an absolute monster, this 120 kilos of pure muscle and incredibly strong, setting all these insane powerlifting records and crazy bench press records and all this stuff. And they say, okay, they're going to arm wrestle. From the outsider's perspective, they're going to go, well, Larry's just going to crush this dude. Like, he's a kid. He looks like he's just come out of school. And then for Schoolboy to dominate that match, it's like it allowed the people who saw it, and a lot of people did see it because Larry has a big following, to realize, oh, there's more to this arm wrestling thing than just being strong. And so I think that was a very, very powerful tool that Larry Wheels used. And he probably knew going into that he wasn't in a position where he was going to be the favorite. He was more than likely going to get beaten. But the advantage of that is he gets beaten by somebody that nobody would have expected outside of the arm wrestling world. They're going, oh, Larry Wheels, his biceps are 22 inches or something. He's going to crush this guy. And then they see him getting beaten, and it's like, how does that happen? How did he lose? And then it's like, well, let me explain to you why he lost. And then you can be like, arm wrestling has all these different techniques, and you can see why and analyze it. And people maybe at that point go, oh, there's more to this than I realized. It's like, yeah, that's correct. And this sport is unending rabbit hole of technique and strategy and different things that you can do. So I think that really pushed arm wrestling forwards a lot. I think Larry having those matches brought a lot of attention. So maybe we'll see something similar with Brian Shaw, because he has a massive following. He's a powerhouse. He's a giant. And he may get on the table with somebody that of a similar caliber or similar story, who has some unique aspect that they can bring. It's like, we want to sell this match. We want to get people interested. It's like, we've got Brian Shaw. It's like, fantastic. That's covered. Huge audience. He's got his own storyline. Massive guy, very strong, very powerful. He'll probably kill whoever's on the other side. Who's he going against? And you want to be able to answer that question with, oh, he's going against Hathor Bjornsson or Eddie Hall, or I don't know, somebody that the people in the general public would recognize, and they would say, oh, geez, Brian Shaw versus Eddie Hall. I want to watch that. They don't know about arm wrestling. They don't know about techniques, but they know those two guys, and they know those two guys are enormous, and they want to see that match. They want to see that match take place. And I would too. I mean, but yeah, that's the difference in terms of having an inbuilt audience and having the ability to get people to watch. You want to make sure that person is being watched in a match that's going to be very entertaining for the people who have tuned in. The last thing you want is for the entertaining person to step up and just get absolutely flash pinned 4 times in a row. And it's like, well, that was boring and waste of time and money. You want to have 2 big characters going against each other, big intros, big fireworks, whatever, stepping up to the table. It needs to be a spectacle if you're going to have somebody like Brian Shaw stepping up to the table. Sylvester Stallone says, Magnus ver Magnuset. Yeah, potentially. I don't know if he has as big a name. You'd have to look at the marketability of that, because there's probably a lot of people out there going, I'm not sure who Magnus ver Magnus is. And then you'd have to really sell them on who this opponent is and why it's interesting. If it's best that Brian's first match would be against someone with a bigger following, Larry Wheels, Schoolboy, Leonidas, or Chance would be good, in my opinion, only looking at people in arm wrestling. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Larry Wheels and Brian would be phenomenal. I don't think Larry's been training arm wrestling lately, but if he had the call up and they said, hey, Brian Shaw, Larry Wheels, And I would probably favor Larry in that match because he's got a couple of years of experience over Brian. But that would probably be one of the best ones out there, I think. Brian versus Larry Wheels. What do you guys think? Would you like to see that? Of all the people we've talked about so far, I think that's probably the best option. Brian Shaw, Larry Wheels. Because Larry has experience in arm wrestling, and the people in the arm wrestling world know that he's been training arm wrestling with some of the best people he can. His technique has improved. He's not just doing this as a once-off like laugh, or an intro, like just a one-off interest. He's actually put the time in to get really good at it, and he is a very powerful man. And so to him up against somebody else who is got strength and power coming from Larry and strength and power coming from Brian. Okay, well, now it's going to be about technique here and who can implement their technique better, because you're both going to be incredibly strong and both going to be incredibly powerful. I think that match would work better in terms of promoting it. So let me jump over to the East versus West card, because we did put that in the title as well. I'll share this one here, and I'll bring that card up. And I'll hide the chat here. Oh no, can we still see that? That's not too bad. What do we think? Let me hide Cameron's comment there. There we go. All right, so Artem Morozov and Vitaly Laletin. Whew, big match there. All of these matches actually are quite big leading into this. Morozov coming off a big win recently, and same with Laletin. Both guys featured on King of the Table, and it's just hard to pick one. What is this? Right arm? It's going to be right arm. Morozov is so dominant on his left. Oh, it is right arm. Okay, 115 kilos plus super match. Woo. What do we think of the chat here? I'm struggling to pick a winner here. Morozov and Laletin. Jeez. Both incredible pullers, both guys at the top of their game, both pushing towards that elite status. This is probably the best match two have made here. I mean, if you had, God, I don't even know if you said, here's $50, put it on one of them. I'm actually flip-flopping between the two in my mind as to which one I think would win. This is like a pick'em match here. It's like 50-50. Luca is in. He says Vitaly, but it's just so hard to choose. Yeah, I think I'd be going Laletin. I've got to say Laletin, but I think either guy could win this. I don't see this as like a match that is like this person is a favorite. I think it's just dead even. It's crazy. These guys are so equal with each other in terms of skill. Cameron says, correct me if I'm wrong, but is Monster Michael Todd going against David in East versus West 14? Not sure. Might not have been announced officially yet, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But Michael having two recent victories over Frank, and what did he use? The last one was that King of the Table as well. Who did he beat there? Oh, it was Lars Robakin. So great to see Michael on the winning side again. Yeah, that is a tough match to pick, Morozov and Laletin. Let's move on to the other one. David Samushia and Sasho Andreev. I believe Sasho's coming back from injury. I might be wrong about that, but just let me know if I am. Samushia obviously holding the belt there, title belt. What have they got with? Because they keep changing their mind in terms of they were giving out helmets for a while, but now they've got belts. The welterweight belt. Yes. God, it's another hard one to pick. Sasho, he needs his position to get victory. He's a short guy. He wants to be in as tight as possible. And if he gets there, he's unstoppable. But getting there is the issue. He needs something in a match, whereas I think Samushia has the ability to go anywhere and be very competitive. Top rolling, pressing, or hooking. I think Sasho is going to be looking at one lane only, which may be, it's almost like that glass cannon approach. It's either going to work and you're going to win, or it's not and you're going to get blown out of the water. So, yeah, I think Davitt for me in that match, because he has more options and more tools in his skill set. And another David Dadakian versus Oleg Petrenko. And we saw Oleg compete at King of the Table as well. Another very good performance put in by him. I think he's on the rise as well, but he's going for the title here in this matchup against David here. What is that for? The light heavyweight title match on the right arm. Petrenko has been looking good. He's been looking powerful and strong. I think he might do it. My pick is going to be for Petrenko in that match. I think his rise is really pushing up. I'd love to see him get the title. He's on a very... He's got a lot of momentum behind him at this point in time. We scroll down a little bit so you guys can see the rest of the card. Yeah. Okay, so this is another good one here. There's some good matches on this card. Evgeny Prudnik versus Irakli. God, I should practice these before I get on here. Serkashvili. I just call him Irakli, but Irakli being a phenom in that division and getting wins over John Brzezinski. He is looking stronger every single time he gets on the table, and he has one of those physiques. I think I've talked about this before, that when you see him like standing there, if he's just sort of standing, he looks like, yeah, he's fit, like he probably goes to the gym, that sort of thing. He doesn't look like a massively strong guy. But then when he puts his arm on the table, it's like this huge arm just appears out of nowhere. It's like, where did that come from? It's like his arm went 3 times the size in 3 seconds. And it's like, oh my God. So it's a very strange thing. I don't know. I don't understand the biomechanics behind it. If you're standing relaxed versus putting your arm up in this position, and now it's 3 times bigger, it's like, wow. Yeah, so Irakli for me in this match. But man, Prudnik is good as well. This will be a great match. I think Irakli's got it. I think it's his time. I think that he wants to be pushing up towards that number 1, and he's got the momentum. He's setting world records for, was it world records? He's setting records for street curl as well, and the guy's just ridiculous. And so young too. Prudnik, has been around. He's experienced. He's a world beater, but he's got a big challenge in Irakli. That'll be a fantastic match, actually. I hope it doesn't take forever in the setup, though, because I think that may be one of the game plans there, is that just to make it long-winded and dragged out, to try to tire out your opponent when somebody is that strong, when somebody is that powerful. It's like, make it long, make the match dragged out. Which, yeah, unfortunately for the audience, is not fun to watch. Todd Hutchings, one of our favorites here from AWE, won the AWE Intercontinental title, a fantastic guy. And he is going up against the legend, Krasimir Kostaninov. And that'll be a good match. I think Krasy's best days may be behind him at this point. I think Todd is still at that top level. I think that he would be my pick for that match. I love the fact that Todd has the ability. This is what we were talking about before, is that everyone brings a different sort of skill set and a different technique. And Todd is gone all in on side pressure. And he doesn't just use side pressure. He's obviously very adept and a technical puller, but he's basically going, I'm going sideways, and I don't care if you take my hand or anything. I'm going to be throwing sideways as hard as I possibly can. And if you stop me, then you stop me. But good luck trying to stop me. He's going to throw everything he has that way. And he's going to do it. You know what his game plan is going to be. But he still just blasts through people. I think people are not expecting his side pressure hits to be that ridiculously strong. When I was talking to him here in Adelaide, when he came down for AWE2, this was quite interesting, actually, that he said, because we're talking about training and the club environment and stuff. And I said, do you, like with your starts, do you train a lot of sort of getting in position? And he said, all of our training is all starts. Like it's all match starts at all times. He's like, if you get on the table with someone, another person will come over and they will line your hands up and you'll start and you'll have a match. And that's what they do for their training at all times. It's never that you just grip up and say, oh, okay, you're ready. Yeah. All right. And then you add a little bit of pressure on the other person. And then you sort of get into a slow pull. He said, we don't do any of that. It's all match starts at all times. So, which is, amazing. It's so different to anyone else that I've spoken to in the sport. But his preparation as well, leading into a match, is crazy. Like so before the actual match, like an hour before, Todd will be working out and he's doing his max lifts in side pressure. And he'll do, say, like, let's say his side pressure could be 80 kilos at his absolute max. He will do one lift of like 50 and then the next lift at maybe 65 kilos. And then sort of 5-10 minutes before the match, then he'll come out for the match. And his thought process is, my 1 RM or my 1 rep max or my biggest hit is going to be against my opponent. So he's building up, in like weightlifting competitions, they'll do like a certain amount of weight in their first lift just to sort of secure some points, and then they'll go heavier, and then they'll put their heaviest lift at the end. He's doing the same sort of thing, but he's putting his heaviest lift against his opponent on their first round. So a unique approach there from Toddzilla. Yeah, so he's going against a legend of the sport in Krasimir Konstantinov. Barbara is going to be my pick in the women's division there. She was able to get a dominant victory over Gabriella at East versus West a while ago. She's a very tall girl, very powerful, and she has a lot of range of her technique and able to compete in all different areas. So hook, chop roll, and press, she's adept in all of those. I think she'll be the women's champion for quite a while. Dan Earthquake says that Toddzilla has a well thought out strategy to training and competition. He does. He's definitely spent a lot of time thinking about the best possible ways he can get results, and it shows through his ability to go around the world and compete at the highest levels and win. Phenomenal arm wrestler, and it's so good that everyone is coming up with these different approaches, and there's no just one path. It's not just do these exercises, get strong at them, and then you'll be good. It's like, well, maybe you do those exercises, you get strong at them, and you still suck because it might not work for you. And it's different for everyone. It's the same as training in the gym. You have your foundational movements like, squats and bench presses and lat pull downs and all the rest. They will work for everyone to a degree, but maybe you're stronger in bench than me, or maybe you're stronger in leg press than somebody else, and it's just, that is your natural ability. And so when you get on the arm wrestling table, maybe you discover, hey, I'm really good at pressing, and like, I don't know why, but it just seems to work well for my frame. And I was going into this not expecting to press, but that seems to be where I'm strong. So yeah, Toddzilla having figured out what works best for him, and then because it's so unique, it makes it very interesting. And it's like, he's almost like one of the only guys in the world that really does that. Maybe Bak Song Young as well from Korea, who does a similar, very side pressure heavy game. But yeah, if you're going to go against Toddzilla, it's like, it's all side pressure hitting, and it's going to happen, but good luck trying to stop it. All right, what do we got here? Let's have a look here. For the next one, we've got Travis Bagent, and it's too small for me on the screen there. Let me bring it up so I can read it. Oh, Kalenchno, yes, yeah. So Travis Bagent versus Sahil Kalenchenko. Yeah. Fantastic to see Travis back. I know he's got a couple of matches lined up leading up to this one, and whether or not he'll be at top form. It'll be interesting to see how he goes leading up to this match. That'll really, I can't pick a winner until I see how Travis goes. I know he's got a match against Derek Smith, and he has another one in between as well. His process or thought process, he was on the show with us last week, was that he's going to peak for 3 months and take as many matches as he can during that time, and then he'll probably get off the peak for a little while and recover. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's hard to pick a winner in that until I see where Travis is at on the table. But always great to see Travis competing. He is a charismatic, entertaining, fun guy. Actually, that wouldn't be a bad match either. If we were talking earlier about Brian Shaw matches with who he should go against. And that might be quite interesting. Travis Bajan, he does have the charisma and the ability to sell that match, make it super interesting. Even if people are saying from the general public, you say, okay, Brian Shaw, and they go, yeah, okay, you're world's strongest man, giant guy, massive. Who's he going against? You go, he's going against Travis Bajan. They go, who's that? You go, well, let me show you. And then, a minute later, they'll be like, yeah, I want to see that. That's going to be amazing. Because the trash talk that Travis would talk in that match would be phenomenal. But again, I mean, it's hard to put Brian Shaw. It's like throwing him to the wolves there. Captain Obvious is here. Todd's latest nature walk videos, throwing plates like a shot put while he drinks beer. Yeah, he's a great guy, Todd. He knows who he is, and he's not afraid to shot. And when we got here when he flew to Adelaide, and in the airport here in Adelaide, we have a pub. And the first thing I said, great to meet you, Todd. I've always admired what you do. Do you want to grab a beer? And he's like, yes. So we went and sat down at the pub for a couple of beers. The funny thing was, he just arrived in Australia, wasn't used to the difference in accent. And we had a Corona beer, and then we went to get a second one, and we're standing at the bar. The bartenders come up, and I said, oh, just 2 more Coronas, thanks, mate. And he's like, yeah, no worries. And then he gets them, and he looks at Todd, and he says, do you want a lime in it? And Todd looks at me like, I have no idea what he just said. And then he looks back at the guy, and the guy is like, do you want a lime in it? And Todd's like, which one of those is a word? And I said, he's asking if you want a lime in your Corona. And he's like, oh, no. The way he said it, because with the way we speak here in Australia, all of our words tend to run together as one word. Do you want a lime in it? Comes out as, do you want a lime in it? It's like, do you want a lime in it? Was not something he could decipher, having just stepped off of like 40 hours of flying. Good day to you too, Captain Obvious. Oh, a lime in it, yeah. Do you want a lime in it? It was great. Just the confusion. I could see he did not pick that up, and then the guy didn't slow down. He didn't slow it down the second time. Do you want a lime in it? Yeah. He's not just daddy, you mate. He's got an American accent. You need to separate your words. We had a similar thing with when I was in Ireland, myself off there, with Paul Maiden and Tim Bresnan. So Tim obviously being an American and Paul being English, but there was so many times when Paul would say something to Tim, and he would have no idea what he'd said, no idea at all, because Paul's accent, he was speaking English, and he's from England. So I had to be sort of the translator to translate English to English for Tim. So Paul would say something like, "Are the house prices in Tennessee?" And Tim would look at me like, what did he say? I'll be like, he's asking how the house prices are in Tennessee. And he's like, oh yeah, no, the house prices they're quite good. Yeah. And then Paul would be like, you got any horses? You got any horses on your property? And Tim would just be like, what? I mean, he's asking if you have any horses on your property. Oh yeah, we got horses, we got sheep, we got all sorts. but it's just. But there was every now and then Paul would say something. I'm like, yeah, I didn't get that one either. Oh, it's great. I love the fact there's so many different accents in the UK. You know, it's such a smaller region to have that many versions of the same language. Uh, yeah, Australia. I mean, you could be from the complete other side of the country. I wouldn't have a clue until you told me. Until you said I'm actually from Brisbane or something. I'm like, oh, all right. There's certain words, like a very small select words that are sort of giveaways. Like if you said, oh, we're going to the beach, yeah, pack your swimmers. I'll be like, nah, they're from Queensland. We call them bathers. Yeah. Or the way they pronounce graph. So graph, graph, they call it graph in New South Wales. A graph, I hate that. And schedule is how I would say schedule. And over there it's schedule. Sometimes. Depends on who you're talking to. Seems like a funny guy to be around. No filter too. Yes, he was very funny. He's a funny guy. He's very charismatic, entertaining. Says that he spends most days walking with a gun on his hip. Yeah, he lives on a farm, so yes, he's very into his firearms and always has that out there for safety. But yeah, very interesting man. Let's go back to the card here. It's not graph. It's not graph. It's graph. No, it's graph, not graph. Yeah, certain people will say graph. I've heard it over the years. I think it's phasing out. Bowen Cantado there from New South Wales. What about Fritz and Devon? So not Devon Larratt. There's like a meat sausage thing here that we will call Fritz. But in other parts of the country, they'll call it Devon for some reason. I don't know why. But that's another giveaway. If you said, oh, you will get some Devon, I'll be like, you're not from here. Oh, and the big one, the one that has incited many arguments, the Schnitzel Parmigiana, right? So that Schnitzel Parmigiana, which gets shortened to a Parmy in certain areas, have a Parmy, but in other areas, they call it a Parma. Parma or Parmy. And yeah, if you call it a Parma, you are not from this part of the world. You are from. It's like, hang on a minute. Did you say Parma? Yeah. Okay. Where are you from? Victoria. There we go. Is Bogan regional or you all use it? Lower socioeconomic areas, you'll find the Bogan accent. So yeah, people who are lazy with the way that they speak, it comes out very obviously in their language. Yeah. So the way I speak, the way Dave Stockbridge speaks, that's more than likely how you would find most people would speak in Australia. But you do get that real Bogan accent with that. Yeah, you going, man? All right, yeah. Yes, champion, are going down the shop. That you'll find in lower socioeconomic areas. But people are very friendly. People are, most of those guys would give you the shirt off their back. Like they might seem like they're aggressive or something, but they're actually being really lovely. Bond says he doesn't know how to say it. I always say graph. Let's just go with graph. I don't even say it, whether maybe that's the Fritz and Devon thing. Yeah. There's another thing in New South Wales. Oh, pool. So Pool, swimming pool. I've heard a lot of New South Welshmen say pool. Instead of pool, it's pool. Go to the pool. Not everyone, just every now and then. Pool and school. Spermy's Answer Creamy says Hollywood. There you go. Great to see you in here, my friend. Lovely to meet you over in Ireland. Captain Obvious sounds similar to Louisiana Bayou accent, with the Bogan accent. Yeah, probably. I mean, it's just choosing not to pronounce things correctly. Oh, the chicken thing, says Bowen. Chicken thing. What did I say? Chicken. Oh, the Parmigiana. Yeah, okay. Palmy or Parma. Yeah, Palmy. It's Palmy. It's always been Palmy. You look at the way the word is spelled. It's a M-I. It's not a A. Parmigiana. Anyway, yeah, Louisiana Bayou accent. It's just being lazy in your speech, and that can define the way that you communicate. And it can be very hard for people to get out of that. One of my key things I really don't like when people say free instead of three. Three is the word, not free. It's just use the effort to pronounce the th. Three. Yeah, there was three of us. We went down. Did you mean there was three of you? Like it's like a stab in the eye when someone's like, ugh. Great. You're probably right. Sure, let's say I am. I don't think it's that important, really. Let me get through these matches here for East versus West. We'll bring that back up on the stream here because I did write it in the title. That's a Bogan thing too, says Bowen. Free, yeah. Is this a worldwide thing? Do people say that around the world? They say free instead of three. Has anyone else heard that anywhere else in the world, or is it just purely Australian boganism? There's a great bodybuilder, Lee Priest from Australia, and he says free instead of three. I love listening to the guy. He's very entertaining and charismatic and interesting, but he says free, and it just like, yeah, gets to me. Let me scroll down so we can see the rest of these ones. This card does have a lot of matches. Okay, so I'll bring this back up so you guys can see it. So Adam Tainov versus Berdul Onani. Oh, yeah, I don't know these guys. I'm sorry. There's going to be people on this card that I'm not familiar with. Prokyak and Simonev. I heard the names. Again, not overly familiar enough to analyze the match. Same with the women's match there. Petrova and Takanaka. Yeah, I'll be interested to see it because, as I said before, when you get to watch these matches with people that you haven't seen before, you get to learn about them and maybe you discover a new favorite. Chance Shaw, he's going to be going up against Sagoff there. Always good to see Chance compete. Haven't seen him compete for a little while. I think he was supposed to be our number one for AWE 1. He was supposed to be the headlining match against Ryan Bowen. Unfortunately, had an elbow injury, which I think has hampered him for quite a while. I don't remember seeing him in any matches recently, so this may be a comeback match for Chance here. If anyone has seen Chance, has Chance pulled recently? Have I missed it? Because going on the East versus West card, if it is a comeback match, is no simple task. All right, let me scroll down again for the last matches on the card here, and I'll bring that up again for you. Probably a little too small. Let me see if I can zoom in. Nope. Certain sites you'll be able to zoom and make it bigger, and then others it just makes, I don't know, it doesn't work. Anyway, again, another ladies match. I'm not familiar with these two ladies here, Pedersen and Terpilova, and then Zurab Taprisi and Petro Marinat. I'm not sure who Petro is. I haven't seen him compete before, but I know that Zurab is a phenomenal arm wrestler. I think he's coming back from a broken arm. So it may be a year since we've seen him compete. But here's one of those things, if you have an injury like that and getting back on the table, are you as strong as you were? Have you exceeded that? Are you not quite back at that level yet? So there's a few questions going into that. The next one there, we've got Adam Wawrinski and, what's that last name? Marov. Yeah, Adam Wawrinski would be my pick in that one. He's a very powerful man and doing amazing things at the upper levels. I don't think he's quite in that 1%, but he is knocking on the door for sure. And I think over the next few years, you'll see him. He'll either go up and improve to that top level, become an absolute weapon and potential a contender, or he will eventually start dipping. I think right at this point in time, he's probably just outside that elite level, but so it should be good. I mean, if he gets the win here, he's going to continue his trajectory rise and see if he can continue to be successful. Spermie's Ice Creamy says that he has Adam Warzone. He's got Adam. Yeah, Wrozinski, he is a phenomenal arm wrestler for sure. I think at this point, he's just beneath where he needs to be in terms of getting to that elite level. This match should hopefully, if he gets a win there, give him an opportunity to go against some of the absolute best guys, and hopefully he can hold his own there. And the last match on the card is, the Russian spy, Artem Taranenko versus Tom Rositz. So Artem Taranenko obviously came over for AWE 2. We had, I think 18 flights to get him here. Lovely guy, and he competed twice on our card. He had a left-handed match against Mario Tambakis, which was an absolute war. Mario was able to get the win there, and then he had a right arm match a couple of hours later against Ryan Bowen, and Ryan was able to get the win over Artem there as well. But anytime that Artem is on the table, I'm very interested to see how he goes. I'll be interested to see how he performs in this match. He seems to have sort of peaks and valleys with his results. Does phenomenally well for a while, and then sort of gets one loss, and then does really well, and then gets that one loss. And it's like that loss would have moved you up to that next level. So this may be another push towards getting up there. We'll see how he goes in that match. Captain Obvious says, last I heard about Zurab, he retired and moved to Canada. Okay. Well, he's on this card. Zurab against Petro Marinant. So, yes, he hasn't retired. He is back. He will be back July the 6th on this card. Always good to see that people can continue in the sport even after having a big injury. Peaks and valleys, kind of like cycling. Yeah, that is a good point. But you would think he would be spacing out his events in time that he was at a peak to be able to peak. But yeah, it is an element in this sport for sure that people need a certain amount of time to get ready with their vitamins to make sure that they're at their absolute best condition stepping onto the table, which is why when injuries happen or when delays to matches happen, it really screws people up, because they're like, I spent 9 weeks building towards this with all these substances. Now it's going to be, I need to adjust all of that and try to like extend the life cycle of the benefits I can get from this. Or do they just go, look, I'm going to be on the table, put somebody else against me. I don't care who it is. I've spent 10 weeks of money, time, and supplements to peak for that day. So I don't care who it is. I'll be ready, but I don't want to waste money and time. And it's hard to keep finding alternate words for what, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, they're all just rumors. Yeah, absolutely. It would be interesting to see who in the absolute elite guys is still a natural puller. Do we have anyone in that you could say, like, this guy's definitely natural in, say, the top 20 arm wrestlers in the world? Hard to do. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I'm running through like the top guys, and I'm like, nope. I don't think there. Well, I'd love to hear if anyone can think of one that's like, okay, this guy's definitely natural at the top, in the top 20 in the world. So RBJ, yes, he's definitely claimed the natural status. I'm not denying that at all. But I wouldn't put him in the top 20 in the world. But I mean, he has the potential in his weight class to get to the elite levels. Absolutely. The guy's a phenomenal arm wrestler. And I hope he does return to the arm wrestling scene. I know he had a bit of I haven't seen the videos of it, but I think he had some issues with I don't know. He sort of went off the rails a little bit, got angry at fans or something. I don't know. Frustrated. I think he's just frustrated at this point in the time. Yeah, not the top 20. Yeah, it's pretty hard to say anyone in the top 20, maybe even the top 30. Who would you be your pick for the highest level natural arm wrestler in the world? I mean, RVJ's got to be up there because he is probably in that 105 kilo class. Big hand, very powerful, very strong. It's hard to say. Yeah. Number 1 ranked natural arm wrestler in the world. Who is that? It's the Drew, he says. It's the Drew, definitely the Drew. He's undefeated. He's never been pinned by me, that's for sure. Yeah, it is that crazy. I mean, do you guys, when you're watching, I mean, you guys are the fans of the sport. If you're watching an event, do you really care if the guys are taking gear or not? Like, whether they're natural, whether they're not, it's like, I don't care. I just want to see a good match. I just want to see the best possible athletes I can see. Like, I want to see the biggest, strongest, freakiest nutcase guys that I can say, this is the best at arm wrestling in the world. These guys right here, these guys are phenomenal, and they're ridiculously strong and powerful. And whether or not they're using substances to enhance their abilities, because I mean, in theory, if you took all the substances away, you should still have the same guys at the top in terms of their natural abilities and physicality and natural strengths. You know, you would think, okay, well, the guys who are at the absolute elite level, you know, they know how to train for their body, they know how to pull, they're experienced, their technique is phenomenal. If steroids had never been invented, it may look very similar in terms of the same guys at the absolute top. That's not a bad idea there with Ongabayev. Absolutely, probably a good pick. Hard to tell. It wouldn't surprise me if he was using or if he wasn't. But yeah, it's probably not as an obvious one as most of the others. Rhino may very well be natural. That's another good one. Another good pick there. Uncle Todd. Todd is at least on TRT, like percent. Yeah, well, there you go. Now, what this was an interesting moment that happened with the UFC's history, and I'll get my UFC swag out. I've got to get it from the office in the city, but Rhino. When TRT first came around, and it's testosterone replacement therapy, for those of you playing at home, the idea behind TRT is that with men's levels of testosterone, it should sit in a certain range. And it depends which test you'd go by. The test that we've got here in Adelaide, that the measurement that they've given as normal is between 12 and 25. And it might be different in different parts of the world. 12 and 25 is a normal range for men's testosterone. That's on our measurement here. And if you fall beneath that, so 12 and 25 is natural. And if you're at like 4, maybe you're having symptoms of depression, body fat is being retained, you know, you just don't have motivation, no sex drive, all of those things, then a doctor would send you to firstly, you'd go to an endocrinologist and get all your blood works done. And this would take a couple of months. You'd have to screen a few times to see, is it just this one-off test, or is it that you actually have this, you know, permanently? And then if it is found that, yeah, you're at 4, like it's not getting any better, you're way beneath where you need to be, they can prescribe testosterone, either a gel or an injection, and they'll bring you back up to those natural levels between 12 and 25. So that's the idea behind testosterone replacement therapy, TRT. What people were doing, and this is what happened with UFC, is they would get a doctor's prescription for TRT from their doctor, and they would present that to the athletic commission leading into the event. And they say, like, when you've got to fill in your pre-competition questionnaire, and it says, are you currently on any medications? List everything that you're on, and they would write testosterone, and then they would provide a prescription from their doctor that said, um, here's testosterone replacement therapy. It's been prescribed legally from my doctor, and it's going to keep me in a natural, correct range that I'm supposed to be in as a man, as a healthy adult male. The problem was, obviously, guys were pushing way above the 25 normal range, and they'd be sitting at 80, 100. They're just obviously getting a lot more benefits out of it than what has been prescribed to get them back into a normal range. And so there was a couple of years there where there was that gray area where you saw a lot of guys that were jumping on and getting these TRT prescriptions, because there's ways to manipulate your blood work when you go to get a test done. You can, if you stay up all night, you don't eat anything, and you go and work out for 2 hours before your blood test, your test levels are going to be like nothing. You can do that, get a blood test. It says, wow, your test levels are really low. You're like, yeah, I want testosterone. And they're like, well, we'll have to do it again in 3 months to see if it's still there. No worries. 3 months later, stay up all night, don't eat anything, go and do a 2-hour workout, go and get your blood test done. Oh, wow, it's still really low. Yeah, it's really low. I really need that testosterone stuff. You get it prescribed, and that's if you want to go the legal route. But then you're sitting in a normal range, but then you've enhanced it to way over where it should be. So we did see athletes doing that in the UFC, and they had to sort of figure out, well, what are we going to do here in terms of, it's being prescribed legally from a doctor. It's to treat a medical condition, but it does give an advantage to an athlete. And so the UFC started doing a thing where they were like, okay, we will blood test the athlete who's on TRT leading up to the event and see what level they're at. And they've got to be within the normal ranges to be able to compete on the card. And this happened to Nate Marquardt, is that maybe 4 days before his match, they got a blood test result and he was way above. And it's like, you can't compete. Your level's at like 40, 12 and 25 it's supposed to be at. You're at 40. And so he was getting a blood test every day by the UFC, and he was trying to lower his testosterone levels to get back in that normal range. But he wasn't able to get it low enough. And so he got pulled from the card, pulled from the event, created a lot of controversy. Vitor Belfort at that time, if you've heard of Vitor Belfort, and the prime version of Vitor Belfort was TRT Vitor, because he had the TRT exemption for about 2 years, and he went on an absolute tear. I think he's spinning back kicked, knocked out 3 guys in a row, one of them Michael Bisping, and that's what caused Michael Bisping's eye to detach. Yes, knocked out Michael Bisping, Luke Rockhold, and I think it was Dan Henderson as well. But then when he went off of TRT, you saw a very significant difference in his body shape. And all of a sudden, he wasn't able to compete with the top guys anymore. He wasn't just dominating people, and he went from a 3-fight knockout head kick first round win streak to getting knocked out in the first round, and that sort of finished his career. So UFC, after a couple of years of trying to figure out what are we going to do with this TRT stuff, it is prescribed from a doctor. They've said, look, people are abusing it. It's too difficult for us to try to monitor everyone's levels. We're just going to outright ban it. So if you need TRT, you're not in a position to be a healthy athlete. So you're not going to compete with us. If you want to come and say, hey, I've got a TRT exemption, guess what? You're not healthy enough to compete with UFC. You don't pass your medical. See you later. So all of a sudden, the guys that were on TRT are like, oh, let me see if I can get my levels back up naturally. But probably the biggest difference physicality-wise would have been Alistair Overeem, who came from a K1 background. He's a monster of a man, huge heavyweight, 120 kilos of lean muscle mass, the demolition man, Alistair Overeem. And he was knocking people out left, right, and center. but there was always that question of, well, we know that you're on stuff, and he kept sort of getting around the drug tests, and then he must have been using a masking agent or something, because he did get tested a few times and passed. But they came out with a new test which tested your testosterone to estrogen ratio, as opposed to just whether or not you're like what substances that you have. And they said, okay, with this testosterone, epitestosterone estrogen ratio, it should be sitting between 0 and 4. And 4 is really high, like 4 is high as. But we're going to push it all the way to 6, just in case there's some freak out there with naturally incredibly high levels. So 4 is really high. They went, we'll allow for that, and we'll go all the way to 6, and we'll say, okay, a 6-to-1 ratio, just in case some person out there unfairly gets, like they might naturally have that. We want to be covered in case that happens. Anyway, Overeem got tested with this new test. So 0 to 4 is normal. 4 is extreme. 6 is like ridiculous. He tested at 40. That's so good. So yeah, they didn't catch a substance. They didn't find what substance he was on, but they were able to catch him with that insane difference in ratio, and it's very obvious that he was using, and he caught a ban for that. But when he came back, my God, it looked like he melted. It was like this 120 kilo phenom, and when he came back, it was like it had just sort of sucked in, he'd lost so much size, and it's almost like his career made such a big change at that point in time. He was training at Greg Jackson's gym. I'm talking about MMA, sorry guys. I get excited about it, but he got knocked out a bunch of times, and it felt like he was chinny, as in a stiff breeze was going to knock him out. And so his game really changed from being ultra aggressive to being very, very careful with his striking. And he would choose his moment, throw one strike, and then get out of there. And he sort of coined that, when he would be pressed against the cage, to drop his hands and just run, literally run around and get back to the middle of the octagon. Stipe Miocic caught onto that, almost head kicked him as he was running away. But yes, he was able to get some good wins from then on. But never the same as when he was on the gear. I'll catch up with the comments here. A gel. Where do you rub that? Usually in your legs. You would rub a testosterone cream, not as effective as an injection. Obviously, it's going to need to be absorbed by the skin. And usually it's a lower dose, a much lower dose than what you would get in an injection. But it's a good alternative for people that don't like needles, and it's much easier for people to rub a gel into their leg every day. But it is a much lower strength than what you'd get if you were using an injection. Derek Smith got testosterone pellets implanted under the butt cheeks. Under what? Implanted under butt cheeks, apparently. I have not heard of that either. Testosterone pellets? I don't know. That's new to me as well, Captain Obvious. I haven't heard of that. Yeah, maybe it's similar to, with the girls when they don't want to take the pill every day, they can do I call it an implant. Like they put this certain thing in their arm, and it releases the hormone, a certain amount of hormone over like 5 years, or maybe it's similar to that. I don't know. Haven't heard of it though. Time release pellets. Yum. That's great. Vitor was amazing. He was a phenomenal fighter, and I'm not sure if he still is fighting. I think he might have stepped away at this point, but explosive. Like no one could match the speed of his hands. Incredible fighter. That old Jekyll and Hyde effect. It is absolutely. that female cyborg was on the highest dose of TRT. Yeah, she didn't spend much time fighting in drug-tested organizations, though. She fought the majority of her fights in Strike Force, and yeah, she only had 1 or 2 fights in the UFC, and I think at that point she was able to time. Well, I don't know. With USADA, they bring in random testing all year round. You got to tell USADA like your whereabouts and all sorts of things. They went full like 100% ridiculously strict on their athletes, and they caught so many guys, which kind of sucked because there was some of your favorite fighters that now get banned for 2 years or 3 years, and it's like, oh, well, that sucks. I'm not going to see them for many years. And I guess you got the argument of, well, yeah, it cleans up the sport and all the rest of it. It's like, yeah, but I don't think the fights are as fun or as interesting now. The athletes I don't think are as, their skill has gotten better, but I just love to see 2 incredibly strong guys like go and fight. It's a spectacle. Uberim, that's right. Uberim, yes. The Demolition Man, and then he changed it to Uberim when he came over to the UFC. When Overeem went off the juicy, he deflated and looked like a normal human being. It didn't help him much in the ring, though. Yeah, that's right. I should bring up a photo of that. I'll see if I can find that in a minute. Actually, I'll do that now so you guys can see what I'm doing. Let me bring this up here. I'll hide that comment so I get more room. And let's type that in here. Alistair Overeem. Overeem before and after. All right. So what have we got? Where's a good photo? A good example. That's probably not a bad one there. Which one's the best example here to show you guys? That one, maybe. Hopefully that's big enough there. Let me see if I can bring just the image up. What happens? Open image, a new tab. That's the tab I want to show. Yeah, so there we go. How's that look? All right, you see a slight difference in the physique, just a little bit from 40 ratio. But have a look at that. I mean, the muscularity is the first thing you notice. It's so much depleted. Yeah, it just wasn't the same after that. What a stark contrast. You can see that in that photo. And that's only a year or 2 between photos there. So, yeah, absolutely insane. Dan Earthquake, great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for being here. Always good to see you, my friend. Have a good flight, and we'll talk to you again soon. He's boarding the plane. Dan Earthquake heading over. I think he said he's going to referee in the IFA. So, great to see him here. Let me bring myself back up again. There we go. Oberyn. He was more skilled when he was lighter, and then he relied on brute force bully-like fighter for a while that he became worse as a skilled fighter, lazier. Yeah, so he fought in Pride in the light heavyweight division, in the 93 and under division, or 93 kilos or 205. And he was not a journeyman, but he wasn't at that super high level, as in he was probably in the 10 to 20 range. He was working on a magazine. He used to own a fighter magazine for kickboxing, him and his brother. And he said that he spent so much time worrying about this magazine and editing that and doing all that side of it. His training almost went on the back burner. And he to make that 93 kilo limit, he said, I never lifted weights, because if I lifted weights, I put on muscle and I was going to be too big for my weight class. So you saw Overeem as a pure kickboxer, really, and he got knocked out by Chuck Liddell. He did have some good wins in Pride, but yeah, he sort of disappeared for a while. He ended up stopping the magazine and started lifting weights. and came back as an absolute monster, and then started fighting in the K1 Grand Prix, which is just a pure kickboxing event where they have big pads, gloves. I think they looked like they were 16 ounces. They were massive. But, so Overeem, being a huge monster of a guy, would just shell like this. You couldn't see anything to hit. The pads were, the gloves were so big. And he would just walk up to guys, grab them in a Muay Thai clinch and knee them in the head. And it was the Uber knee became his trademark, and he would just knock guys out with that. Made it over to the UFC and was able to be successful there. But then, got knocked out a few times in a row, and then got caught for the ratio thing I was talking about earlier. And then because he was training with Greg Jackson and Jackson Wink out in Albuquerque, they have a very clever way of going about their fights, and that they really analyze their opponents. They come up with very specific, tailored game plans. So when you're going against one of these guys, you know that they have studied you inside and out, and they've got a very specific game plan they're going to implement. So with Overeem, it was like, okay, you're getting knocked out. You've been knocked out a few times, and they weren't. It's probably moments where if you were younger, or if you hadn't had so much sort of trauma to the head, you more than likely would have not got knocked out by that. So this is becoming a problem here, that you're getting knocked out more often than you should. So they changed his fighting style from being very aggressive to being very elusive, and really picking his moments to throw strikes and then getting out of there, which worked for him. He was able to get a couple of wins with that. More of the wins that he got were from decisions, because even though he would have his moments, he wasn't rushing and trying to get big knockouts. So yeah, he really did change his approach, but it worked well for him. But he did end up getting caught a couple of times and getting knocked out. He got knocked out by Stipe Miocic, and Francis Ngannou also knocked him out as well. So, but heavyweight division in the UFC is like, good luck not getting knocked out. Those guys are bloody monsters. Captain Obvious says, did you see Eddie Hall fighting those mini brothers like a gorilla versus two spider monkeys? Yes, I did see that. I thought it was, I thought it was funny. I don't think it was a good move. I don't think it was clever. I don't think it proved anything. It was just more of a spectacle, really, wasn't it? I mean, it was just like, hey, this is funny. Let's watch this. Let's watch an incredibly powerful strong man go against two smaller men. Let's see what happens. It's like, well, okay, I'll watch it from like a car crash kind of point of view. In terms of it proving anything, or being like hey, this is a new thing, we're going to start this new league, 2 versus 1 or whatever. It's like, no, it's nothing like that. It's just fun. It's just something that's entertaining, and it was entertaining. I mean, Eddie obviously, winning that fight comfortably, but it is what it is. It's probably never going to happen again. For good reason, really. It wasn't. It didn't really do anything. It was almost like when George Foreman fought 5 guys in one night, thinking that it would get the audience on his side to prove how strong he was, but really, it just made everyone feel like he was a bully. It's like, yeah, you're beating 5 guys that are not at your caliber, and it's like, yeah, you fight 5 guys who are way beneath you in skill, you're gonna win 5 times. Like, yeah, especially Muhammad Ali was able to grab the moment and spotlight on that night just by being there and commentating for the event. Was able to sort of use George's attempt at regaining the public's approval and steal it for himself. Captain, best thing I saw all week. Yeah, it was a funny thing. Captain, in the voice of Jim Carrey, Cyborg is a man. Well, Dana White did refer to her as Vanderlei Silva in a dress. But she does seem really lovely. Like, every interview I've seen with her, she's very humble. She's very nice, and she does a lot of good things for a lot of people. So, yeah, but she had a very good career. Her sort of ended with Amanda Nunes knocking her out. But up until then, she was almost unbeaten. had lost one fight in kickboxing. Captain Obvious, yeah, Luca Einhorn turned Finkel. The Ace Ventura moment of realization. Misha Tate is my favorite female fighter. Win or lose, she's just a cool chick. Absolutely, yeah, she is a phenomenal fighter coming from a wrestling background. Cupcake, her nickname is, or Takedown. Depends on what mood she's in as to which nickname she's going to go by. But yeah, she had that great rivalry with Ronda Rousey on the Ultimate Fighter TV series and really got to see behind the scenes as to what sort of person Ronda was like and what sort of person Misha was like. And she does seem like a very, very cool person to be around, very relaxed, very humble, very friendly and giving. And, you know, obviously gave her best effort in that fight, was able to improve from the first time she went against Ronda, where she lost by armbar in the first round. And she was able to get to the third round, have a lot of good moments in the fight, but also got armbarred again. Dan Earthquake, we caught up on that one there. Hope your fight goes well, Dan. There you go. Dan's going to be pulling. He's going to be refereeing, and he's team captain. He's president. He's everything. He's the leader of the free world. The Drew says, I met Misha at an arm wrestling practice here at Brandon Allen's. Nice lady. Sarah Latona taught her some arm wrestling. What a sight to see. That would have been amazing. Yeah, that's one of the fun things about the people who do jiu-jitsu or who do MMA. They come into it with a fundamental understanding of leverage. And essentially that is what arm wrestling is looking to exploit. You are trying to use all of your tools and body weight and frame to extend somebody else's arm and put them in a position where they're at their weakest. And it's very similar in jiu-jitsu, where you're trying to use your entire body against one person's joint in an arm bar or in a chokehold, or, you know, all these different, it's like, so they usually will grasp things quite quickly because they are used to understanding that getting the right positioning is more important than being stronger. So would have been great to have seen Misha on the table there. Lucas says that's awesome. I remember her on that stream from Brandon's. Yes, absolutely. There you go. I forgot to get an epic pick at that moment. I just do think of those things. I just do think. You got me with that sentence, Drew. That's one of those things though, like, yeah, you want to get a photo with somebody and it's great to be able to show other people and to remember and look back at and say, yeah, but sometimes it's not appropriate to get a photo. Like if somebody's on the table or if they're talking to other people or like you're just hanging out and you're like, yeah, I've been talking to you for 20 minutes. Can we get a photo together? Like it just doesn't, sometimes it's like a bit out of place. It's like, oh, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't, it can just change the context of your conversation. And sometimes you're just there and enjoying the experience. And it's like when I was in Ireland at Arm Gods, you know, I met so many amazing people, but I was enjoying just talking to them and interacting with them and being with them more than going, let's get a photo together. You know, I didn't get a photo with Paul Maiden of all people, or Marcus, but I was talking to them for hours over the weekend, and we did a podcast together and everything. But it was like, I don't feel like I need to get a photo because, like, it's like I'm just enjoying the moment here, and it would sort of take us out of that. Where's Brandon been? Haven't seen him doing any shows lately. He's been busy, says the Drew. Filthy, says Captain Obvious. Sad with the way test affects females' jaw and face like it did with China. Sad how the end of her life went. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe some other underlying mental health issues for China there. She did end up getting into the adult film industry near the end. But yeah, that's the thing is if you're injecting male hormones into your body, you're going to develop male characteristics, which is usually why most women who are going to be going into that realm of either bodybuilding or, you know, those physique kind of categories, they will use something like Anavar, which doesn't have as many viralization effects on the female body as something like testosterone. I also love Gina Carano, who I've met, and was the nicest, coolest people ever. Yeah, she was the pinup girl for women's MMA before Ronda Rousey. Gina Carano she was the dominant champion, had beaten everybody in the female MMA world until she went against Cyborg and was beaten in the first round right at the bell. Like the referee called it off, I think, as the siren went for the end of the round. But I don't see her having won that second round anyway. I think it would have just continued on with Cyborg getting the win there. But yeah, Gina, obviously a very beautiful lady, and she was on American Gladiators at the time as well. She was able to bounce her career from just being an MMA athlete, or not just being an athlete, but from being an MMA athlete and champion to these other opportunities where she also found success. So with her acting career, and she starred in Deadpool and all other sorts of things, and she's had a standalone movie that was produced by Ben Shapiro. Yeah, she was on, what was it, that Star Wars thing? So she's been doing really well, and she does seem like another very nice person. Yeah, it's weird to get pics like that. Feel like it's a bother. I mean, it's never like if someone wants to get a photo with me, I absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic. But it is a little weird. Like, say I'm talking to somebody and we've been just chatting for like 10 minutes, and then it's like, hey, let's get a photo. It's like, oh yeah, sure. No, that's cool. Yeah, easy. But it does sort of change the dynamic of the conversation for that moment. And then, you're like, hey, and you give it a smile, whatever. And then it's like, okay, so yeah, let's get back to normal talking now. Which is a little, yeah, it's an interesting aspect of psychology that I think, because selfie cameras, they haven't been around for that long. It's still, people are finding the right ways to use it. Gina has always done it for me. Yeah, she's a very beautiful lady, and it's so good to see her finding success in her career outside of just MMA. And at that particular point in time, she was the champion, but there wasn't that many girls that were fighting in this. It wasn't at the level that it is now. It wasn't in the UFC. And I remember reporters asking Dana White, like, when are you going to get girls into the UFC? And his response was always, they're just not at the level they need to be at yet. And a couple of years later, he decided, okay, well, you got Ronda Rousey. She's, this superstar. She's pretty. She speaks well on camera, and she's beating everyone by armbar in the first round. It's like, I think we can make a women's division and get people interested in it with this girl. Like, she has enough following and support charisma that when we put a women's match on, people aren't going to be like, oh, the women's match. They'll be like, oh no, let me see it. And yeah, she almost lost her first match as well. She was in a very compromised position, standing. The other girl got on her back and was searching for a rear naked choke, and Ronda was more concerned about keeping her bra down and trying to fight the choke. I'm not kidding either. But yeah, she managed to get out of it and win the fight. I forgot about that. That try to bring American Gladiators back. You can't replicate the original. It was very 90s, wasn't it? The Gladiators, it had that feel about it. One of the issues I always had with the show was that they take so bloody long to just get to the action. And it's like, okay, let's show you what the obstacle is going to be. And it's like, they go about that for 2 minutes. And then it's like, now let's watch the athlete and have an interview with them. And it's like, yeah. And now let's talk about all the gladiators that are going to be in there. It's like, just show me the bloody thing. I don't care about the other stuff. And then you get the event starts, and the guy like trips over 2 seconds in and gets disqualified. And it's like, oh, that was it. Let's interview him for 10 minutes. It's like, no, get on with the fun bit. Like, that's all I want to see is them going and doing stuff. Overproduced. It's like the show that's popular at the moment, the 100 to 1 or whatever. And I think it's a Korean show or a Chinese show. And they start with like 100 athletes. They do a challenge in one episode and whittle them down to like the ultimate winner of that challenge, but they accumulate points or whatever. But the one episode I'd watched, because this was in Brisbane, we were doing an event there, the AWE Grand Prix, and we were just at the Airbnb, and it was like, we'll put the TV on. I'm like, it's got Netflix. Okay, cool. And I'm flicking through, and I'm like, oh, there's that show people have told me, and it's not too bad. So, loaded up the first episode. The first episode was them running on a treadmill, and it was an hour long. I'm not exaggerating either. It was like 100 treadmills in a room, which they did some very nice sweeping camera motions over. And then let's get the athletes in. Let's introduce most of the 100 people. Yay, that was fun. And then now let's get them running. Oh, they're running on the treadmill. Now let's talk about them running. Let's talk about them running some more. It's like just sweeping camera angles over these people just running on a treadmill. I'm like, I see what this is. It's people running on a treadmill. This is not interesting. They're using all their tricks in their playbook to make it like exciting and entertaining. One of the tricks, and you'll see this now that I point this out, you will see this in every bloody TV show and movie that's out there. If the movie is not good or the quality of their story is not good, this will be an indication as to that they know that and they are trying to disguise it. If they are constantly changing camera angles every 1 to 2 seconds, and I mean they'll do it non-stop, and the reason they do that is to recapture your attention at all times. Here's something new. Here's something new. Here's something new. Here's something new. Constantly in your face, so that you continue to watch, even though the content itself is quite boring. And if what you do, this is a fun exercise you can do. If you're watching a show, just start counting out loud, and every time that they change camera angles, restart your count. I guarantee you will never get to 3 seconds. You'll get to 2 seconds, they'll change camera angle. You're like, 1, change camera. 1, change camera. 1, 2, change camera angle. 1, 2, change camera. 1, change camera. Like, it's that quick. Yeah. If a TV show is bad, they'll disguise it using that trick. And people are not really clued in onto why are you watching this? It's people running on a treadmill. Like, you could go and stand in a gym and watch that, but you don't. Like, no one would stand there for more than 5 seconds watching someone run on a treadmill. It's boring. But with those constant grabs of your attention, they will get you to keep watching. But when you're aware of it and you know why they're doing it, the reason they're doing it is because they don't have good content to show you. If you have good content, if you have a very solid story and solid characters, you will linger on your shots and you will allow your characters to sit in those moments, and you don't have to feel that you need to grab the audience's attention again and change the camera angle. And 2 good examples of great storytelling with interesting characters with long shots: Breaking Bad and any of Quentin Tarantino's stuff. If you watch what is with Tarantino's one, the one with the car that crashed, the death car or something, stunt car, I don't know what it was, death car. Anyway, the opening scene is a group of girls eating at a restaurant, and they're just talking, and it goes for like 8 minutes, and it's one shot. It is one shot, and the camera just moves around the table and allows the dialogue to happen naturally and have these interactions take place without the need to constantly be like, here's a new thing, here's a new thing, here's a new thing. A lot of action movies that are not good will throw shaky cam and just constant camera changes at you nonstop to try to disguise the fact that what you're seeing is kind of crap. But yeah, when you've got a good storyline, if you've got good characters, you've got good dialogue that you believe in, that you feel you don't have, this will stand on its own merit, then you're able to relax and allow people to feel like they're in the room with the others. Yeah, Breaking Bad has moments in there where there's like 60 seconds of no dialogue, and it's just people sitting at a table eating, and the camera slowly sort of moves around and allows you to feel that you're there with them. And then maybe somebody says something, and then the other person might wait 20 seconds before they respond. But they have confidence in their script, in their characters, in their dialogue, in their scene setups, that they don't need to be using cheap tricks to try to capture your attention. So yeah, that's one of those things that if you realize that the thing you're watching has constant camera changes, think about the content that they're providing. And if you look at it as, hang on, is this any good? They're constantly changing camera angle. What am I watching? I'm watching people run on a treadmill. Like, anyway, more arm wrestlers should use American Gladiator type nicknames like Turbo, Hawk, Nitro. Absolutely, I love the nicknames. Nicknames are fantastic. Always easier to remember somebody from a nickname than it is for their normal name, and that is why with the SA Titans Arm Wrestling Club here, I pretty much give everybody a nickname when they start competing, because from the audience's perspective, they can remember the Viking, or they can remember Hollywood, or they can remember Tyrannosaurus or whatever, as opposed to Tim, John, and Mark. It's like, and it gives that character feel as well. So I think there's a lot of value in having a nickname. And I didn't know that Don Underwood also used Hollywood when I picked Hollywood. And yes, I did say that to Tim Graham, who started the club here in South Australia. He said, "What's the nickname going to be?" And I said, "Oh, I've gone with Hollywood." And he goes, "Don Underwood has that." And I was like, "Who's Don Underwood?" Like, this is years ago. Because he's like a legend in arm wrestling. And I'm like, "Oh, there could be two Hollywoods." And I was like, I'll never meet him. I'll never interact with him. It won't be any problem. And then like 3 months later, I'm on a podcast with him. And he goes, "How did you get your nickname?" And I was like, "I gave it to myself." Simple cheese nicknames. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Spider would be a great nickname. Agree, Captain, says Spermy's ass is creamy. Blizzard versus Hurricane. Yeah, that's right. Well, hey, who wouldn't want to see that? That's like in the UFC, they had two guys that their nicknames were Doomsday and Superman. And that was great for marketing aspects. Pulse versus Cardiac. Yes, there you go. Dankius, Tyrannosaurus, Taran Broad. Just talking about you a second ago. They need 3 camera angles for each camera. The third-person shots of the camera recording. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It is one of those cheap tricks that they use where they'll constantly change the camera angles. If you watch any of your day TV shows, you'll notice it now that I've pointed it out. Kubrick was known for that. The long shots. Yes, absolutely. One of the best movies I've seen in recent years was Birdman. It won the Oscar in 2011 or something. That is about an hour and a half long, and I think there's 3 shots. I think they only changed camera angles 3 times. It's phenomenal. It's like a play they put on. The camera moves around following the actors. They're in like a play building. They're putting on a performance, and it's just all the moments that happen with the camera. Michael Keaton will walk into a room, and then the scene will start, and you're there with them, and then they'll finish that, and Michael will walk out, and you go along with him, and he'll walk to another room and have another moment with other people. Yeah, incredible film work, and really allowed them to keep you there. You're part of this. Like, you're walking with them. You're next to them. You're in the room the whole time. There is no cut. You're there at all times for that half an hour shot. Captain Obvious says, I went... Oh, Spermie's Answer Screaming, he's saying this too. I went to a PBR show in Colorado years ago. Those bull riders are nuts. See and hear the insane balls up close was an eye-opener. Yeah, the Derby Day or Derby Day that they have there with bull riding. 8 seconds you got to hold on to the bull for. Very interesting sport in of itself. It's freaking crazy. Yeah, absolutely. Drew's passing out. It must have been late over in Vegas. I'm seeing 1 a.m. My clock I've set for the USA time, although I'm not sure which time zone I picked for it. I think I picked the New York one. Hang in there, Drew. I'm up since the other night. What are you doing, Drew? You got so many streams that you've got to keep up with. Get some sleep. I'm on a 60-hour fast. Ugh, that sounds horrible. All right, well, I'm probably going to go for another 2 minutes, and we'll call it a wrap there. But yeah, open to any questions you guys have. The reason I went with Hollywood, I'm not sure if everyone knows this. So I do acting work as well. So yes, I've been doing that since I was 19. I've got 67 films that I've been in, 40 ads and plays and, you know, all sorts of things. So that is the reason I actually went with Hollywood, because of that side of things. Yeah, it's the reason behind it. But it was very surreal. I remember this. I was in the gym, and they used to have the TV playing on the wall, and whatever show was on. And then in the ads, there was 3 of my ads in the one ad break. And I was like, crazy. And I was like grabbing my training partner. I'm like, look, that's me. That's me in this ad. And he's like, oh, that's cool. And then like 2 ads later, I'm like, here's me again. Look, I'm in this one as well. He's like, oh, well, you're in 2 ads. And then it happened a 3rd time. I was like, yeah, it was a very, very high moment for me. But yes, I know. Yeah, so I do some acting work, but yeah. Spermie's Answer Creamy says, that makes sense. There you go. Oh, there's my IMDb page. Yes, for the Drew. Thank you very much for that, Drew. Yes, I did this year. Have I done 3 films? I played like the lead killer in like a serial killer movie called Spit Hood, which is still in post-production, but should be coming out relatively soon. Problem is, I'm wearing a bloody mask the whole movie. You can't see that it's me. But yeah, so that was a lot of fun, running around and killing people in all sorts of brutal manners, beating people to death, suffocating people with a garbage bag. You know, it was a very physical movie. And one of the issues that I had was that my character is in bare feet the whole film, because I was in a prison, which didn't work out well for me during the filming, because when you're going against people in a scene where you've got to be very physical and you're slamming people against walls and throwing them down and hitting them with torches and stuff, you know, not really hitting them, but, you know, giving it so that you're looking as much like you are hitting them. The amount of times my feet got destroyed, like people stepping on them, people dropping radios and it landed on them. I stepped on tacks and like pins and all sorts of things. I'm running down stairs and tripping over. Like, yeah, would have been great if I could wear shoes, but not in this film. There you go. 24 hours to go on Spermie's Answer Creamy's 60-hour fast. There you go. All right. Any final questions here, guys, at all? That's sort of one of the reasons I know about how TV and films work, and why I see shows like that and just go, this is bad. Like, I know what they're doing. I see the tricks. How many of those films are adult films? None of them at all. No, I did actually consider. I was living in Canada, in Vancouver, and I was struggling for money. And in the paper, they have ads in the classified sections that says, uh, "Adult film workers wanted, no experience necessary, cash on the day." And I considered that so many times. I was like, "Oh, it's like nah." But it was there. It was like it was. It's just different here in Australia. I don't know if it's illegal or you can't film, or I don't know how it works here, but very different and very interesting to see that over there. Dave Stockbridge. I know this guy. Dave Stockbridge, the other co-owner of AWE Arm Wrestling. What an absolute legend of a man. A ring announcer as well for the Diamondback Fighting Championship and the Pride Fight Series. Legendary auctioneer, and runs his own real estate agents group company, which you can see on my arm there. Has been a tremendous supporter of arm wrestling, and we wouldn't have the AWE in any format if it wasn't for Dave Stockbridge. He's also raised the SA Titans Arm Wrestling Club to levels you would never conceive it getting to with his sponsorship. So great to have Dave in here. I'd live to work with you on the set. I'd live to work with. I'd love to work with you on a set. Yeah, absolutely, man. I did some films in Vancouver when I was over there. I know you're in Canada. I believe you're in Canada. You're in Canada or in America? I've forgotten. At home stretch. So it's Captain Obvious. Yes, you're almost at the end. 24 hours to go. That's all good, Luca. No, that's fine. No, 67 films. Most of those you won't see, and they won't be listed on my IMDb because they're independent films or student films, or just stuff that wouldn't get a credit on IMDb. Dave Stockbridge says, "I just want you to know that I have a mate called Matt who has arms that are 5 times bigger than yours, and his bicep splits like valleys." Yeah, he's a little bit taller than you. He's a little bit bigger than you. In fact, he's better than you in every possible facet. Do you guys get this? I've had this so many times throughout the years. People go, "Oh, no, you remind me of somebody." Yes, this guy that I know. He's probably a little bit taller than you are. He's probably a little bit bigger than you are. He's probably a little bit more muscular than you are. It's like, all right, shut up. Captain Obvious says the Matt and Dave show was quality. Well, thank you very much. Yes, we have a great time anytime that we're on a performance or a show together. And we'll hopefully be doing those continuously in the future. Dave has been very busy with his real estate company, which is great news for him. And it can be hard to sort of find enough time to jump in and get a podcast done. But I think once things settle down a bit, we will be back up and running in those aspects very shortly. I know I'm out like that too. Yes, bigger than me, taller than me, better than me, stronger than me, more money than me. Everyone loves him. Everyone hates you. He's in Canada. There you go. Was it Edmonton? Wasn't Toronto. I can't remember which one you're in, mate. Calgary? I don't know. I was in Vancouver. Dave says, yes, he is massive. He is that fictional person. Hey, it's arm wrestling coming soon. Yeah, that's right. Dave Stockbridge. Hey, it's Saturday was a very big show here in Australia. That's what Dave is referencing there. We were talking about the differences in times of generations where we're here in Australia growing up. There was only 5 TV channels. 2 of them were terrible. No one ever watched them. They were the government channels. So there was 3 channels basically. And every Saturday night, Hey, it's Saturday would be on. It was like a variety show for like 3 hours, and you'd get the biggest stars that were traveling through Australia, putting on performances. They would all be on there. And, it was it was very, very popular and everybody watched it. And, you'd go to school on Monday, everyone would be talking about Hey Hey It's Saturday, and they had a lot of characters and funny things from that. So, Hey Hey It's Arm Wrestling is what Dave's talking about there. Saskatchewan. Ah, there you go. The name that no one can say properly. Catchy name. Hey Hey It's Arm Wrestling. Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. Yes, Dave Stockbridge, a good arm wrestler as well, and loves the sport, loves promoting the sport and being part of AWE. And we're working hard to put on the next event, which we'll be able to announce it relatively soon. But right now, we just want to make sure we get all of the details locked in before we make the announcement, but it won't be far away. But yeah, so I think we'll wrap things up there. Great to have everybody on the stream today, and we didn't get an arm wrestling buzz episode. I think Paul is in the middle of traveling between California and Florida and New York and wherever he's going back and forth. So he's quite busy this week, but we'll be back on there next week. But I'll try to continuously do a show after each one of those arm wrestling buzz episodes, so we have somewhere that when you get 150 people in the chat and then we end the show, it feels like, it'd be great if we could just have somewhere else that everyone can continue the conversation. Spermies says, always fun with you, Matt. Take care. Thank you, Spermies. And I'll wrap things up there. So thank you again to everybody. I'll give you a last double biceps just to finish things off. Yeah. All right.